Welcome everybody to Beaver Network. We are just setting up for Salish actually. And then I'm gonna let him come up and add him to the box. And then I'm gonna scoot off and go get some balloons for our celebration. And let him bring you guys up for a bit. And then I'll be popping back in. But just helping Salish get going here. Yes. Yes, we're hoping. We're hoping. Okay, now I gotta find my buddy. There.
You'll have to give me mod power so I can add people.
Okay, I'm gonna actually put you in the bigger box too. Moderators. Doo-doo-doo. Where can't I find you? There you are. Okay, there
I'm a
you
lead
go.
suit.
Okay, so you're okay. I've added you there. Now I gotta make you big and me little. I know you're big and I am little.
Right?
I think I can expand. There we go.
Whoa, there we go.
Woohoo!
How's it going, everybody?
There you go. So I'm gonna
What-
pause. I'm just gonna kind of scoot away and let you go at her, and I'm gonna go pick up my balloons, and I'll be back.
Election day. Welcome to Beaver
Election
Net.
day.
Yeah, Beaver Network. I'm Salish Warrior. If you don't know, for, hope you're all doing well. We're gonna just continue the conversation from essentially the day. It's all about the vote and how we're voting. For those of you that don't know, I'm a Canadian Armed Forces combat veteran as well as I am Indigenous, Comox Nation, Coast Salish. For those reasons, I could never vote Conservative ever. Um, they do not have my best interests in place on either end. As a veteran, I watched Harper sell all of my benefits. My pension took away my pension, closed all my VA's offices. We came back broken, and they had quite literally removed everything for us. So, and then on the Indigenous side, well, we know Pierre's opinion of that. He thinks that I need to earn a hard day's work, learn how to do a hard day's work. So, I was fortunate this riding to be able to vote for Gloria Morgan. She is Indigenous. She was a chief, RCMP, a lawyer. She's been in public service her entire life. She's made it a career. It is her life. And I was very, very fortunate in the Okanagan Similkameen area to be able to vote for her and to have like just such an amazing candidate in my area that will hopefully be working for us. We are accepting guests. So if anybody would like to pop up and talk about this election today, feel free. Oh, thank you guys. It's actually kind of weird to us when people thank us for our service because to us, it's a lot of us. It's just another job, and we do it because we want to do it. We volunteer to do it. I also love seeing Indigenous people in politics. Um, I'm a huge fan of Wob Canoe, massive fan of Wob Canoe. Wob Canoe, I grew up knowing who Wob Canoe was. I'm 42 years old, so I've known who Wob Canoe was essentially my entire life. First and foremost as a hip hop artist, to be honest. That's where I first ran into Wob Canoe. But I think for the NDP to gain any ground ever federally, they definitely need to have him run as a federal leader. And I think it would be amazing to have someone like Wob Canoe as a prime minister and have an Indigenous prime minister for the first time ever. Yeah, he's still cool. Oh, that's excellent. My grandfather was also in the Navy. So a lot of love for the Navy. Exactly. We do it for every single Canadian, for everyone's rights, not just straight white Christians that vote conservative. Oh, Just gotta get a bit of a stretch in. We've been had this since about 5 a.m. for some people. The missus has been on since 5. I've been on since 7. Clapping is tapping. Thank you very much, Moose. Oh, I would love to see Wab Kinew lead our country. And a lot of people like to bring up his past and who he was as a young Indigenous man. And that's okay, but at the same time, people need to learn and understand that people do change and people can change. And at the time when he fell into that, when he fell into alcohol, when he fell into being abusive towards women, he was a young man, and he's changed a lot since, and he's had a lot of growth, and he acknowledges his past. But he would be essentially, if he ever becomes the prime minister, he would be the first prime minister that quite literally came from where I came from. Came from not even the middle class, the lower middle class. I grew up on the poverty line when I was young, when I was very much younger. I grew up on the reserve, so I'm very all for blue collar, and I do not believe that Pierre Poilievre is blue collar. He has never had a job a day in his life other than being a paper boy and working a couple days at the Stampede. He's been a career politician his entire life. And right now, Canada needs an economist. Are you trying to come up, Miss Radical? Yes, his past is an inspiration. Feel free to come up. Okay, Treaty Word. There we are.
Woo! It's election day.
Yeah, it is.
Salish, you and I haven't been able to be on together.
No, we haven't yet. Hello, Mrs.
Hi. Back again.
Back again. Yeah, we've been at it all day, eh?
Yeah.
It's been good. I've been enjoying it. It's been a long time since I've been live, and it's been a long time since I've been live for a long period of time.
I was on until 2:30 in the morning with everybody last, like 2:30 Eastern Standard Time.
Yeah, I saw that. I was sitting in the background.
Guess who I had to listen to today in this conference?
Oh, Pierre.
The wrong honorable Stephen Harper.
Oh.
Oh my God. I videoed the whole thing. I'll do a TikTok, a few of them, and I'll also share it on another live another day. But like,
so tell us all about it. Give us.
Oh my God. I don't want to say exactly which conference I'm at because I'm here representing an organization. I'm on the board. So I need to be mindful of my role as a board director. But this is colonization this is just colonization, and it's an Indigenous conference. And all he talked about was fast tracking resource development. There's 10 million square kilometers of undeveloped land in our north. We need to be building those roads, get to those resources. And all these Indigenous people in this room, like not all of them, some of them are quite upset, but many of them were clapping and happy about this because it's talking about the equity piece, right? And I'm not against that. And I'm not against economic development, but I am opposed to it when it's not responsible or sustainable or done in a way that's mindful of Indigenous rights. And those Indigenous people that don't want to work in resource sector, those Indigenous people that still want to be on the land hunting, fishing, gathering, they have a right to exist in that way too. And we're putting their ways of life at risk when we're having these conversations. So, and you know what he kept saying and he cut this Indigenous woman off who was on the panel, like asking him questions. He cut her off 3 times. He called this one guy who was part of this organization because he wears a cowboy hat. Oh, he's a cowboy and an Indian. I was like, oh my God. And then he's just bounced back between Indigenous and Aboriginal. I don't know what the word of the day is kind of thing. He said like something along that lines. And every time this woman would ask him a question, he started it with, look, just like Danielle Smith. Well, look, blah, 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 blah. And I was just like, but I have it all videoed and I will try to figure out how to make some TikToks out of it. And I felt dirty. I felt so gross after leaving that room. As soon as like people were clapping, I walked out. I wanted to stand up and turn my back on him, like they did with Pee at the AFN.
AFN. Yeah.
But anyways, I got through it. And my daughter made a really valid point to me. She said, Mom, you have to understand them to be able to undermine them. So, anyways, that was my day. And now I'm happy to be here with you guys because I feel safe and comfortable. And I'm so excited to see this election results.
Smudge.
I know. I've got liquid smudge. So, because some hotels won't let us smudge. So I came in here and I was like, just spray. And I went outside for a minute, but I'm in Toronto and it's just honking and sirens and I just didn't feel any connection. So I came back in my room. What are we at here? It's 5:25 here in Toronto. So what the polls close at 8 or 9.
I think 8.
So we got 2.5 hours here. And we'll start counting. Whew. I'm excited. Oh my God, I'm so hopeful.
I'm hopeful, but I don't want to get overly hopeful yet.
I know. Me too. Especially like after what I heard today, and I don't know. It's so nerve-wracking.
Oh, I bet. Yeah.
They close at 8:30. Oh, you mean the Trumpity Dumpity, so basically supporting our tiny Trump here in Canada? That statement. Talk about being vague, but we know exactly what you're talking about there. Thinks he's so fucking witty.
And there's some people in this Indigenous space that were like, wow, they're Carney and Poilievre are basically the same. Because this one person brought up, well, Carney threatened to use the Emergencies Act to get to resources. Well, it's still better than the notwithstanding clause. But, and I do have concerns about that too. But I think I have a little bit of more faith and trust in Mark Carney to actually care about the environment, about climate, and about Indigenous people and reconciliation. His wife is a powerhouse when it comes to environmental matters. So I can't imagine she's going to let him get away with much.
Is someone able to bring Moose up?
Sure. Oh, let's see.
I got him.
Okay, thank you. He didn't show up on the list for me.
I'm not seeing him either.
Hey, sorry, just so the first polls, I've got CBC live coverage on, just so I've got both. So the first polls, we're looking at closing in Newfoundland in 1 hour and 33 minutes.
All right. We gotta have some live camera coverage.
It's nerve-wracking.
Yeah, there's a fella on TikTok. It's him and his daughter, and he's some kind of an economist or banker, or he's I think he's Chinese, but American citizen, but Asian heritage, and he's very intelligent, very smart. Anyway, he went on there and was predicting the Carney win, and it was an American economist doing the prediction. So,
Hey Canada, it's
I got the moose going there on the side. I'm just trying to see if I can pull up their message. Alex and Dean. Those are the TikTokers, Alex and Dean. If ever you want to have a really great intellectual conversation to follow and learn and feel like you're smarter every time you're done their video, Alex and Dean.
Alex and Dean, I'll write it down. Okay, I'm just sharing it out. Okay. Alex and Dean.
So now we have, Trump kind of doing election interference on election day here in Canada. This is just sort of a ridiculous situation that we're facing. And if Canadians don't get the message about this is an existential crisis in terms of sovereignty, then, I don't know how else to drill it home.
Yeah, and just had to unmute there. It's really telling too, because especially when I hate to do it, but pointing out conservative talking points where they say, oh, Mark Carney's just like, Trump and everything else. Well, if Trump's going to endorse PP, then like, is that really the case at this point, guys? But most of them won't see the fact that Trump has now endorsed Pierre Poilievre. They're still going to stick with, no, he's just like Carney, and that's the equal rate there, and this is going to happen because of Carney. Well, come on, guys. Sorry, I just feel that.
I think it's just been amazing to me how they have taken pretty much everything the left has in terms of being able to look up factual, and verify with credible data, and then they just deflect with it, right? Or they're the thieves, and then they accuse you of being a thief, or they're the adulteress, and then they accuse you of being the adulteress, right? This is gaslighting 101. This got left. I wanted to just mention, I've said this a few times, but just how come this happens every time I bring this up into the screen? Okay, so this is a list of why you shouldn't vote for Poilievre in a plastic wrap. Left is on the bottom saying elbows up and never Poilievre. I'm fucking heartened that this was left to me. Yeah. I think the shift, the early voting polls, when people show up in masses like that, it usually indicates a shift, a change is going to take place. And I don't think the Conservatives understand that the Liberals have changed enough that they qualify under that definition. And I hope that they get to see that message tonight.
Yeah. There's a couple people in the waiting room. Are we bringing others up?
I don't see anybody in the waiting room. I'm not a mod on here for some reason.
Oh, okay.
I think
one of them is Sasquatch, who's a friendly.
yes,
And
friendly.
Okay.
So I
bring
thought I was
Sasquatch up.
moderated, but I don't think I am.
Okay.
Yeah, on Pixie. It was actually Pixie who opened up the live, correct?
Yeah.
Yeah, and so whoever she
Oh,
up as moderators, which might be different for. Don't quote me on it because I'm not tech, but that could be what's happening.
me neither. This is all I know is just how to burn people.
Press a button and make sure it works. Yeah. So it was some really good conversation today on the last part of the live there, talking to that young fella at a college or at a university, and I feel so. His conversation's not the first time I've heard that over the years, right? And I do feel empathy for people who make some very shitty choices with big portions of their lives with the best of interest, right? I want to get into it. That's the right way to go. I'm going into debt for this reason, and not to have that job, it must be, it's kind of devastating, and not to understand how, so what is their rights, what is their responsibility in this scenario, and has bought into who can I blame? Because this conversation was that immigrants took his jobs, right? Immigrants. So he didn't look at his own labor market information, his labor market research. There's a certain amount of privilege to go at 18 years old into 4 years of study. There has to have been a support system in place for that. But to blame immigrants, and the reason is a populist politician put that bug in his ear. I said, we're not born with the information about the labor market research and, blah, blah, blah. But, he wasn't born with information about immigrants taking his jobs either. Someone put that bug in his ear. And we all know where that conversation is coming from. So I hope that he can kind of, see how he's been kind of scapegoated himself because of a populist politician gaslighting and scapegoating a problem into immigrants. That was how we were ending the last conversation anyway, or that was somewhere along the way in the day.
And I will fully admit, like, there's times during my stint I maybe got a little spicier than I probably should have for doing, the beaver. But it's really one of those things, especially today, I think, is people feel more emboldened and they're going to come on and they're going to push buttons. Whether they mean to or not, it's going to happen. And yeah, I mean, it's time to just stop allowing the misinformation to have a voice, in all honesty. And, you know, if they're not willing to move forward with proper facts and information, then we need to stop giving them a spot to be able to talk. Like,
I'm an unapologetic lefty, right? It is time for us to come back with we're saying we've raised our kids too soft, and all this. Well, they need to be hit with the ugly stick sometimes. They have to know it hurts because they've never maybe had that experience, and none of this is gonna unalive them. They will feel uncomfortable. They will make a shift and move on. And they grow a little bit from the experience. But sometimes I think on the left, the tone, we went too far with tone policing, too far with some of these pieces of trying to control the conversation. And I'm unapologetic, when it comes to, saying, that I can hold my own when I'm being attacked. I don't have to be a passive victim, of violent conversation or, conversation that's, rude and obnoxious. We can be rude and obnoxious and I don't have to fucking apologize for it no more. Anyway.
And and that's a thing that I find, like, the conservatives are constantly talking about that point. They're like, the liberals are so mean and they name calling this and that. It took you guys 5 years of berating us and literally assaulting us in public during the pandemic. I had people pull my mask off my face working in a restaurant and spit on me. Like, all kinds of stuff like that, right? Like, people coming in and just losing their mind, and we're just trying to do what's for the greater good. And you poked the bear, and now you get what you caused and what you made happen. You rolled this snowball and made it happen, and now you're mad because we're pushing back. You called us sheep because we followed science. You called us this, that, and the other thing. Like, all these names for years through the pandemic. And then we push back, and we're the bad guys now. They're all about peace and love. You weren't about peace and love during the pandemic, were you? You weren't about freedom during the pandemic. You were about fucking over anybody that didn't agree with your stance and with what you wanted. It was never about Canada. It was always about you.
It's selfishness. I really struggle with this sometimes too. Like, how did folks get so selfish? Me and mine. It's all we care about. Me and mine. Did you want to talk, Moose? I saw you wave. Oh, okay. And I struggle with that. You know what? I'm an only child. I should be a selfish person, really, when you think about how an only child is raised, and I only had to really be mindful of myself. And I know when I was a child, I probably was a little bit. I know I was, actually, because if you didn't want to play my way, I didn't care. I go play by myself. Right? So I was the boss. I wanted to be the boss. But I've grown into an adult that understands that there's more to life than me and what I need or want in the moment, especially what I want. Like, our needs should be met, but our wants are wants. And people are driven with this selfishness. I can't relate to it. I just really can't. I can't understand how we got to this place in society.
And I'm a pretty isolated. I stick to myself a lot, but I mean that doesn't mean that you don't have empathy and it's hard to have empathy if you don't understand. And I think a lot of these people with that very selfish, individualistic, capitalist mindset, they really don't understand. Well, no one's taking your rights away. And, oh, well, Indigenous handouts. I don't think you understand what's going on. I think you need to go and read a little bit more, and you might understand how people are truly oppressed. Like, it's not just a talking point. It's not poor liberals. No, there's people that do not get a fair playing field in this country, and honestly over a good chunk of the world. And The thing is that whether you look at it from economics or social issues, if everybody's on an open, fair playing field and we lift people up, everyone wins. Everything is stronger, and those people will be happy too. Like whether you are white, Christian, straight, cis, whatever, if you have happy, thriving people around you in your community, everybody wins. And that's the sad thing, is that it would help them too. If you could appeal to that selfishness, I guess. I just don't understand how, if you're gonna have a country full of people, why wouldn't you want any of them to be doing poorly or to have less rights than you? Like, how does that benefit you? It's an ego stroke. It's literally an ego stroke, and it's a form of DEI. If you conform to the rules, you get that leg up, and you can push everybody else around and say what you want, and they can't do anything. It's like a creepy guy goes to the server at Hooters and, oh, I can poke her butt and she can't do anything, or she'll lose her job. And no, everyone has a right to like protect themselves, and they have a right to pursuit of happiness. Like everyone deserves that. I don't think that's very crazy or progressive, but it is to some people.
It is to some people. Morality policing, where they've been indoctrinated to believe about their privilege in life, never having to assess their privilege till of late, because they too face that existential crisis, and they made certain choices around that. We all had a fear reaction to the pandemic. We all remember what it was like watching those bodies being buried in mass graves in New York. We were scared shitless.
Yeah.
And what happened was, some of us process that in different ways. And it's just like when I work with domestic violence, when we work with predators in SA and stuff, we look for patterns in predators. Almost all predators, I don't know of a single predator actually personally from lived experience that doesn't have the victim story attached. But at some point they crossed over and enjoyed that power and made an active choice to engage in that power. And I don't see this as any different. Yeah.
You said something here, like when you mentioned privilege.
Mm-hmm.
I think that is an insult when we say that they've had privilege, and especially folks that are maybe at not quite, they're middle class or lower middle class, but they think that means they're rich, or they don't understand that it's just an advantage that they've had. And we need to find a new word for it. I think privilege is fine. Some people find offensive. I got to answer my phone. I'll be right back.
Yeah, there's lots of words that need redefining, giving, the definitions have been used and abused so much, like woke, for instance, there's a few things that could probably be relabeled. I'm not saying we couldn't benefit from that. Then we'd be called woke for just having that idea, wouldn't we?
100% woke is one of those things that just gets me, because it's originally its usage was not intended for what they're using it for, and I find that conservatives do that a lot with words. It's the same with when people call me a what do they call it? Antifa. All Antifa means is that I'm anti-fascist. So do you honestly think that I care that you call me Antifa?
Well, and that's, yeah, and even going to the extent, I mean, I've had the thought process of, like, going with woke, right? Like, they criticize for people for being woke. Yes, their meaning or how they interpret woke isn't correct. But even with that, I mean, look at things within the COVID timeline, or even now with different things where they dive into conspiracies and they tell everybody to wake up. Well, guys, we're already woke, so like, how about you catch up if that's the case? Like, you're using essentially the same word in different contexts for both sides of your argument or both sides of your conversation. Well, which one do you want us to be, guys? Do you want us to wake up and be woke, or do you want us to stay asleep and not be woke? Like, come on.
Salish, there's a couple of people, looks like they might have bounced back down, but there was some people that wanted to join the conversation. I think I would have had to change the grid to do that, Do you want more people up, or is this enough? Is your mute on?
Yes, my mute is on. Sorry. Yeah, we can bring up more people if we'd like. I would need Pixie to change the grid, though. I don't think she's around right now.
It looks like I have access to the grid
Oh, excellent.
to do that. So I'll check and see. It looks like they dropped back down, though. There was, here we go. There's somebody named Curious, somebody named Slyn, and
Oh,
Wilf.
Slinny.
Yeah. Would they be okay to come up?
Oh, yeah, I know Slinny.
Okay, so I'll accept them. They should be coming up there into the box.
Oh, I'm not muted. I thought I was muted. Hi, thanks for having me.
Okay.
It's just more so to like add to like I am not surprised if you actually take a look at history, the way things have gone. It is really not surprising that a lot of the right thinks it the way they do. Like the system is built that way with the church. It's built that way in their education systems with like separating that, and because you can't really look at what has happened down in the US without doing the comparison. We're too close. I've always usually like referred to Canada in a lot of ways as USA light, and if you really pay attention, there's usually not much that happens down there that will not float up here. That is just the reality of how close we are. And the more I have educated myself on our history, especially when it comes down to the Indigenous, when it comes down to Black history and everything else, you like, if you really want to look at truth and reconciliation, you cannot see, like, I can't unsee the things that have been done. And if we're not willing to actually look at what those things are and go, like, a full picture of going, this was shitty, this was good, you need a full picture of someone. And just this like idolization of political leaders, like the megas, like all of this type of shit. Like, what are you doing? Like, you're putting all of your hope into all of this, but it makes sense. It was built that way. We cannot feed our families. We cannot do this. Like, I understand we're like, what the hell? We're struggling. And it's kind of like, no shit, we're struggling. We've been telling you that for years. Now it is finally coming where that boot is on your neck. And you don't have the ability to actually go, well, where's the boot coming from? Because where's the time to actually pay attention? Like, all of us throughout something, how long I've been on this app, I know different people, like, throughout these things, I've been either vocal or I've been away based on things that have been happening in my life, as it is for everyone, right? But the moment that you assume that the person that you are speaking to has had access to your family, your socioeconomic status, your experiences in life, then you've lost, right? Because you cannot assume that everybody has the same amount of information, the same amount of access, or the ability to break it down, right? And so it's so hard when we get into this because you get really heated, like, especially like today is a day where I am basically making sure I'm happy that I voted early, so that to me that is not that stress. But the reality is that if Poilievre gets in, that is a huge direct threat to my family, a huge direct threat. Like, I'm a family of all of us are like have some form of a disability, and all of us are part of the 2S LGBTQIA. I literally had to move provinces because of what was happening in Saskatchewan and move to BC, which I'm so grateful for. And even though with where I'm living in BC, it is technically more of a conservative space, I can say full hand after being here for a year that is still not the same level of hatred or bigotry that I experienced in Saskatchewan. Even with people not necessarily knowing, it's not the same. Like, there are so many things that are so surface level that people don't get. And yes, it's going to be sad if he gets in because people just really don't understand what they're voting for. And this is coming from having like parents and like support groups who have children with the same disabilities that think that because Pierre has a disabled child that he's actually going to support that. No, he has money. He has pushed for privatization. He has sat there and literally voted against anything that would help any middle class family. He has ripped it all out because that is not, it's all about pull yourself out by your bootstraps, no handouts, fuck you. Pardon my language. And it's going to be really interesting to see what happens. And I don't know if I went off on a tangent because I kind of do that. So thank you for listening to my TED Talk.
Great tangent. Welcome is. Right? Because we have to have a place to come and express our. You're on mute there. You're
Oh,
on
I
mute.
just said I've missed your tangents.
Okay. Well, I let me see if we're hooked up as friends here, Slinny. I will give you a follow. You know, one of the things I've enjoyed about being a part of the Beaver Network is the amount of space that we have given to people to be able to come in and share the kind of thinking and feeling that you just did, right? To have a safe place to come in and say that these things are real, right? And our lives have been affected by them, to not have them minimized, and then to have a political expression for resolution, right? Provide some resources, provide some educational materials, help people learn how to learn civics. So because the more you know, the less fear you will have, right? Because if you're all of a sudden paying attention to politics over tariffs, that's a scary place. If you don't understand our level of government and all the checks and balances that are put in place and how hard it is going to be to take down our democracy, you could live with quite a bit of fear. And then if you follow a politician that is big on populist politicking and tapping into fear, that's going to feed it instead of comfort it, then you get, no wonder we have such a large amount of people who are up, cortisol's flowing through their bodies, adrenaline's flowing through their bodies. Right? And this existential threat is one of the first times they may have experienced it in their life. Right? And it is the closest thing I've ever come to it, I'll tell you. Next to actually, having life threatened. But anyways, that's what I love about Beaver Politics. We provide space, and I'm glad that you came here and shared that. Because if nothing else, you help reinforce some of our stories so we don't feel alone. Right? But there's always this lived experience that needs to be learned from.
I agree with everything that Slinny said. I am part of a marginalized and vulnerable community, and I advocate a lot for those people in everything that she said. And when it's come to conservative governments, the people who are most vulnerable are the most neglected. And if we're looking into comparison of what's happening in the States right now, we can see what Donald Trump is doing to those people. And I live in Alberta, and I am living through what this government is doing to people like me. And I've gone through the conservative platform, I've gone through his plan, and I see all the same rhetoric and narrative that the Alberta government has done to its marginalized and vulnerable people. And it is frightening when so much of Canada's population lives just on the edge of being in poverty. All of the Conservatives' plans aren't going to help those people. They're making it more difficult for those people to lift out of poverty. They're just going to further divide the people who are on the low end of being middle income from those that are on the high scale of being closer to high income. This disparity is going to get much, much, much worse.
Can't disagree with that. It must be tough living, we're in BC, right? There's an illusion of BC being very progressive when the reality is Conservatives have actually run the show for majority of the time in British Columbia's short history. Right? And the first province, though, under a left-leaning government that is going to step up to the plate and give Indigenous people rights back over their territory. That's the first time, I think, in it's world history making. It's like Haida was the first ones, and I think there's no other country in the world that has given land back, so to speak.
Yeah, South America South Africa, is doing that right now, I believe.
Okay. So,
Yeah.
This is a shift in the world geopolitical system and alongside this far right movement, right?
Mhm. Yeah.
And I have to believe that the Avatar movie will succeed. Right? Like we have we have got to be coming out the winners, and Canada's going to spearhead that. We're going to spearhead that ship on the world scale. People are looking to us in this election. It's all eyes on deck because Stephen Harper has been, and Treaty, I'm just looking at you here, but Stephen Harper has been busy at work on an international level promoting Canada for a different reason, promoting Canada for its far right wing ideology, right? And so we have to counter that message opportunity today.
And to add to that with Harper, a lot of people actually forget about what he was trying to do with the old stock, new stock Canadians and what that would have actually done and the basis of what that would, like, how that went, because at that time, it just, with the wording and how, my dad was a landed immigrant at that time. My dad purposely, actually, after being in Canada since he was 8 years old, only went and got his Canadian citizenship because of what Harper was doing. That, in effect, what Harper was doing would have affected my Canadian citizenship. And not realizing that, or like the difference between like how if you are of the global majority versus if you are palm colored, what the treatment is, whether or not you were accepted as an immigrant. And the last thing that I wanted to tie into that I just had this thought about is just like when it comes down to like working or jobs, a lot of people fail to realize that when we get a lot of immigrants, they are extremely well educated. And a lot of times they are accepting jobs that are of less value just to keep their families fed. That is way below what they are capable of doing, solely because of the fact of the racism that sits there saying that their education is not qualified enough to do their jobs. And that,
Yeah, just to bolster that too, like a lot of people don't realize, baked within the immigration system, like when you're being considered for immigration, you have to prove that you can take care of yourself and those coming with you, right? So you have to have experience, you have to have something that Canada deems useful right now. And a lot of times we look at healthcare or, you know, the things that we really do need, they look at that as criteria. But yeah, like if somebody's immigrating to Canada, that's baked right into the process that they have to be able to take care of themselves and their loved ones. So to bolster that point, that's why the vast majority are more educated, because that's factored into allowing them to immigrate to Canada.
not to mention, they usually speak more than 2 languages.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, absolutely.
So while we're talking about Harper, and we have some time to kill, do you want to hear this video?
Yes, I've
It's
been
26
waiting all day.
It's 26 minutes. Okay.
Okay.
Hang on. Let me crank it.
Okay, I'm going to mute everybody.
Suggested we get a grant through the First Nations Financial Management Board, I think it was.
Can you see
So that
that?
sounds like an idea. Why don't you go to Bernard Valcourt? He was the Indian Affairs, or what we said Aboriginal Affairs Minister at the time. The terminology keeps changing.
Changes.
Yeah, and if Bernie likes it, then he'll take it to Minister Flaherty. And so that's basically what happened. They got, I think, $3 million over 3 years, started in 2015. Nilo had worked for Jerry and really became the driving force of getting the organization off the ground. So look at terrible tragedy. He's not with us. Life is not fair. Nilo was 37. Jerry's 137. He's still with us, and Nilo's not. But look, he did a great thing building this organization, and what a tremendous thing it's built into over the past decade. So congratulations to everybody.
Thank you for those kind words for Nilo. I know everybody's dying for us to get into it, so let's just jump right into some of these questions. You've argued that Canada requires a long-term strategy to be competitive. What are the most urgent reforms, in your view, that we need to strengthen and diversify Canada's economy?
Well, look, I'd say just on the comment, we need a long-term strategy. I think what's happened, obviously since January, with essentially the threats we've received from the President of the United States, from the new administration. I think, obviously there's a short-term response to this. Much of it is very emotional. But I think it really should remind us that, notwithstanding all that we have achieved and the standard of living we've built, that we, to use an investment term, I spend most of my time in the investment business right now. This country is like massively overweight the United States. And we really haven't had, forget about a short-term reaction, a long-term strategy to diversify our markets and really realize the true potential of this country. My government created a series of trade agreements all around the world with countries, 51 countries with 2/3 of global GDP. That really wasn't followed up on. Obviously, we were trying to disentangle the Byzantine regulatory process that was, making it decades or more for projects to get approved. None of these things were followed up on, and now we look at this situation and we feel quite vulnerable. But the reality is it's an opportunity. It's an opportunity for us to realize Canada's potential. We can be, with a long-term strategy, and it doesn't have to be that long-term, we can be a genuinely globally connected and globally competitive economy, frankly, with the highest living standards in the world. This country, with its resource base, should have the highest living standards in the world. I think, Jamie, the way you really kickstart that, to be blunt, is with resources, and more specifically with the traditional energy sector. I can tell you right now, as someone who travels the world, the entire world wants to invest and buy Canadian resources and Canadian energy. We're rule of law. We're far removed from conflict zones. We've got high-grade resources of all kinds. But we obviously lack the regulatory process and the infrastructure to get these things to market. And I think if I were running a new government, which thank goodness for the country I'm not, and for me,
I don't know if the election results aren't in yet.
yeah, then that would be the priority: to get this stuff built and make it happen. And let me tell you, if the world thought Canadians want to do it, they would just pour money in to see this happen.
Agreed. And so you sort of hinted in your response at the importance of greenlighting projects, right? I think in today's environment, everyone is interested in a project permitting and regulatory regime that moves quickly, that moves predictably, but it also has to maintain high standards of environmental protection and Indigenous rights protection. So how in your mind should we be balancing those competing interests, if they're competing at all?
Well, I mean, they are competing. We obviously, look, I always say we should have, there's no reason a country as wealthy as ours, there's no reason we shouldn't have the highest environmental standards in the world. But that's different than saying we will not in any way alter our environment and therefore not let a project proceed, which is where we have unfortunately gone back to in the past 10 years. That should change. Look, in terms of, it isn't just a matter of First Nations rights protection. I mean, it's really what this conference is about. It's about First Nations participation. The great thing about resource development is it should allow for the spread of wealth across the entire geography of this country. I mean, I've been a bit kind of both perturbed and amused by governments that, it's all about Toronto, Montreal, and Vancouver. Well, the great asset of this country is we're 10 million square kilometers. And if we have a plan to develop that, there's no reason why the people in all of those far-flung parts of the country can't share in the wealth. And as you know, many of those communities are Indigenous communities that often have had a real dearth of economic opportunities. And so I don't see it as a trade-off. I see resource development and the progress of Indigenous people as inherently linked. And frankly, I don't think for a lot of these far-flung communities, you're going to get much in the way of opportunity unless you have resource development.
Yeah, that's a fair point. And I think, to quote our friend Mark Podlasly, who likes to regularly say, that there is no purer form of consent than equity participation.
Right. Absolutely.
And so if that's the goal as we move forward in our economy, I think we can move away from that perception of the roadblocks and the hurdles and the legal challenges to
progress. Yeah, look, I think we want everything. We want
Cut
equity, participation at the top. But I think it's just as important as well, and part of the plan should be for job and wealth opportunity for individuals and families in these communities as well to benefit from these projects.
I think strong communities are built on families.
Right. And look, the truth of the matter is, we can talk all we want about social and development, et cetera, and other development programs. The truth of the matter is, nowhere in the world and nowhere in history are people prosperous and people doing well unless the economy they're participating in is doing well. And so when, as we say in so many of these parts of the country, when there just is no or very little economy, not surprisingly, people aren't doing well, and there's just tremendous opportunity for that to change.
Agreed. And I think it's in everyone's interest for us to see that change. You alluded to this focus that maybe we've had as a country in the past around the major markets, the big cities, Toronto, Montreal. A lot of people are turning and looking towards the north right now, right? The Arctic is one of our country's greatest untapped economic and strategic frontiers, with vast energy, vast mineral deposits, and growing geopolitical competition for control in that region. So in your view, what steps do we need to take as a country to make sure that we're asserting our rights in that region?
Well, some of you may remember that Northern Strategy was a big part of my government's focus. I went up north every year, and we promoted a lot of important projects. You know, I think of one of the things I'm proud of is the extension of the national road system to the Arctic coast, to Tuktoyaktuk, the Dempster. We basically began the construction of the new generation of Arctic patrol ships and icebreakers. We put an Army training base in Resolute Bay, started working on a naval facility in Nanisivik, which is still going on, I think. And look, I'll tell you this, I'm proud of all these things, but the reality, I'll just be very candid about this. The reality was I had to fight the federal bureaucracy to get funding for all of these things. The view was just, this is extraordinarily expensive, very few people live there, what's the benefit going to be? Well, there's another way of looking at it. There will be no benefit unless this stuff is done. I mean, one of the great challenges for proponents of projects, and by the way, not just when we say north, not just in the Arctic, even the near north, northern Ontario, not so much northern Alberta, but just the northern parts of our provinces, is that there is no basic infrastructure. For years, I won't get into specifics, but for years, we had a big international company wanted to put a major mine in Baffin Island, and governments of all levels were demanding of them, they build the roads, they build the housing, they build the railway, they build the port. Like, what company is going to take, nation building becomes the company's responsibility? This is ridiculous. We need governments of all levels. We have, 10 million square kilometers that we have not developed, and we need it to be a responsibility of governments of all levels to provide basic infrastructure throughout this country. And once again, I'm hoping that the kind of wake-up call we've got from the Trump administration convinces us, forget about what Trump wants. We have a responsibility ourselves to have a country where we can access our entire country, its land, its seas, and its air everywhere. I say we started to put those things in place when I was there. That stopped, but that needs to return again, and there needs to be a huge emphasis on that. And those kinds of dollars, well spent, will have big payback in terms of development.
Definitely. Those are the sorts of, you would call them nation building projects, right? I mean, if we look into our history, those nation building projects that, look, they were hard, they were difficult, they were expensive, the National Railway, for example. Are there certain key...
And by the way, we've done far less, like other Arctic nations have done far more of this than we have. Now, Look, in fairness, there are reasons for that. There are reasons very peculiar to Canada. Our north is one of the harshest in the world. Much of our north is islands, which precludes a road system. So there are some real challenges for Canada, but we have just so underachieved in this area compared to other Arctic nations. It's embarrassing.
And I think a lot of the folks in this room would suggest that Indigenous communities, traditional Indigenous knowledge is going to play a pretty central role in that region in terms of its management and any future development.
And most of the, I say you get very far out of southern Canada, not just the Arctic, but even the near north. And Indigenous people are generally the majority of the population. And so they will have to be part of the process. And as long as, my experience has been, as long as they think they'll be part of the process and it will work for them and with them, they'll be part of it. I think one of the great things this organization has achieved is creating a whole series of projects where Aboriginal communities and people have been involved and have benefited, and now showing there are templates to do that. That wasn't the case, when I was in office 15 years ago.
So the FNMPC wasn't doing this 15 years ago, right? That one was just for you, Charlene, and all your hard work. Going back to that idea of these nation building projects, how, just from your perspective and all of your years in government navigating that bureaucracy that you speak of, how do you weigh those interests in terms of the cost involved in those massive nation building projects versus the outcome that is needed for the future of the economy?
Well, as I say, I was operating in a very different environment than today. So much of my, I got in office in 2006, and then a couple of years later, we had the global financial crisis. And so at that point, the entire focus of the government became getting us through this massive shock to our economy, which, by the way, was entirely external, but nevertheless had a big impact. And so much of our spending and programming was around that. And then, because we were determined not to leave the country with a structural deficit, then when we came out of that, we were pretty frugal in terms of government expenditures going forward. Obviously we're living in a different time now. We're living under different opportunities and different threats. And, look, unfortunately, we're entering this strained period with a big structural deficit. But I say, even with that, given the growth of the world economy, given the demand for Canadian resources, I really do think that government money, properly deployed and in coordination with private investors from Canada and around the world, that we could make significant investments, even if they had to be deficit financed, significant investments that you could demonstrate real return in the short term. So I would encourage governments to be bold and ambitious, providing you're building something. I mean, this is not about welfare. This is not about, just increasing social programs. This is about providing real economic development and opportunity.
I think that's very timely and is a nice lead into the next question around the importance of economic sovereignty. Right now more than ever, given the geopolitical uncertainty on our continent, I think Canadians are starting to look inwards, ask themselves what we need to do to be more sovereign in our economic health. And I just want to ask about your vision for economic sovereignty for Canada and how you think Indigenous nations can play a role in that.
Look, I think it's really important to say in the present context, I'm not a protectionist. I believe that we should encourage capital to enter our country from around the world. And I think that larger Canadian institutions like the pension fund I chair and others should also be ambitious in terms of their own global scope. That said, I do think one of the reasons we have the rise of protectionism or the rise of very similar movements in many countries is that populations, say not just Indigenous, that local populations of all kinds have often found themselves left behind or left out of economic development. So I just think it is really critical that we have the mechanisms by which local populations will be engaged and will benefit. Obviously, in the case of First Nations, the case of Indigenous people in Canada, I think we now have, which we didn't have 10, 15 years ago, the mechanisms and the templates by which they can participate and benefit. And look, the beauty of that is that smart international companies who do business around the world, they also understand that in this environment, unless local populations and communities are engaged in employment, sometimes in equity and other things, that their own investments will be at risk. So I think we're just pushing on an open door here in terms of where this organization and others like it are trying to go.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more. I'm going to ask a bit of a policy wonkish question because we're here today in Toronto and we're talking about solutions.
Is something happening today, by the way?
Maybe a little something. This event is happening today, which is more than a little something. Actually, I wasn't going to go there about the other thing that's happening today. But we're here, part of the focus of this event that the FNMPC puts on every year is to try to find practical solutions to raise Canada's profile on the global stage, to raise the profile of Indigenous economic participation. From your time in office, if you could make a Christmas wish list in terms of tools and resources that would have helped you accomplish things that you think we need to accomplish, what would that list look like?
Well, look, when we're specifically talking about the issues around this conference, obviously the big experience I had was our revamp of the kind of entire regulatory environment that we undertook back in 2012. And look, I think a lot of that was really good stuff and still remains really kind of a guidepost today of what needs to happen. We reduced the number of federal organizations that were involved in evaluating projects from 40 down to 3. We also created the mechanisms by which provinces and federal government could coordinate their environmental reviews. We learned a lot along the way. I hope whoever is the new government, if they're serious about getting past Bill C-69 and getting a workable environmental review process in place, I hope they consult with our people who learned a lot around the way about which of these reforms on the kind of bureaucratic level worked and which ones had more difficulty. But look, Jamie, the big difference there are two big differences between now and then. The first big difference was, and I will be blunt about this, was that my government, and I had been very outspoken about this, our government saw that Canada was going to fall behind in the world unless we kind of got our competitive act together. And obviously, particularly, unless we really had mechanisms by which resource development could happen. But just more generally, unless we understood that our vital long-term economic interests and long-term living standard were really endangered unless we tackled these things. And the reality was back then, Jamie, that we were pushing on a string. A lot of the public didn't get it. What had happened was we'd come out of the global financial crisis and we'd come out so much stronger and so much faster than everyone else in the developed world that people didn't really, they felt kind of okay. People didn't realize the urgency. That was the first problem we had. And look, that was reflected, by the way, not just in the population, but reflected in the business community. When we were making these changes, while the major business groups all whispered to us that we were doing a great thing, none of them kind of went to bat publicly for it. And we got public pushback. And then, of course, in the whole area of Indigenous, we got pushback. I think, not because there was fundamental Indigenous opposition, just because back then, as Jerry so rightly, St. Germain pointed out in 2012, there actually weren't mechanisms for First Nations to participate on the equity side. And so while there were employment opportunities, a lot of people just didn't see how they could benefit. Those things are very different now. The Trump thing has been a wake-up call that, in fact, suddenly you look at, we don't have great access to the United States. People now really do understand that really does endanger our standard of living and our global competitiveness. And by the way, that danger was already there. So Trump has really made us see how vulnerable we are. We knew that in 2012. Most people didn't appreciate it, but as I say now, the big difference is as well that for the First Nations populations, the Aboriginal Indigenous populations, who are so much of the landmass of the country, they now have better ways and better templates by which they can actually show how they can participate and benefit. So I think that's the big change from that period. But look, I'm not afraid to say it, and forgive me if I'm being partisan, unfortunately it's a lost decade. We lost the decade when a lot of these projects could have been launched and could have been going. And look, if we were able to sell our oil, gas, and other things to the rest of the world, what a different position we would be in today with what President Trump is saying than we actually are. But we can change that very quickly. We have the resources, and if we have the political will, we have the resources, and we have the global interest to make these things happen and make them happen quickly.
And I think a lot of the folks in the room from First Nations and Indigenous communities would suggest that we've lost more than a decade. Right, these tools and avenues for greater Indigenous participation in the Canadian economy have been missing for many generations.
Yeah.
But I think what we're here today talking about at this event, the work the FNMPC is doing, they played a critical role in advocating for the Federal Indigenous Loan Guarantee Program, which is a welcome development. I mean, I work at a bank, it's no secret. We're celebrating this loan guarantee program. The FNMPC is celebrating the loan guarantee program, and so are many nations across the country. That is a much needed avenue.
It's a much needed avenue. Look, there's a bunch of things. There's those things that are in place. I say we need to have legislative change the regulatory system. And let me say one other thing. And look, I'm always very candid. Through my business now, I'm involved in a range of enterprises. One of them, I don't mind mentioning it. One of them is an organization called NextGen Energy, which has the rights to develop the largest uranium mine in the world in Saskatchewan. And they have great support from the Indigenous communities in the area. They have gone through a lot of the regulatory process, even the existing regulatory process that passed, and they're all ready to go. All that's holding them up now is the CNSC, Canada Nuclear Safety Commission, has to have a formal hearing as the kind of last stage of the process. CNSC has delayed the hearing for almost a year for no reason. And this is the other thing that has to change, and I don't mind saying it, whoever wins the election tonight, the federal government has never come fully back to work from COVID. We need messages to get through the federal government to get into the office and do your jobs. There is no reason why a single meeting should take a year to take place. Regulatory change, obviously First Nations participation, but as I say, also as well, we need a functioning public service to do its job.
Just need to get back to work.
Absolutely.
Everybody needs to get back to work.
Yes.
Well, that's a great note to end on. Thank you so much for being here with us today. Folks, the Right Honorable Stephen Harper.
Thanks for that to happen in terms of equity
So-
economically.
You know, it's
Jerry
funny.
suggested
Oops.
we get a
My daughter is a public servant, and she does more work when she's at home than when she's in the office. Because in your office, you like coffee time and hang out and visit. And I used to be a public servant. I know how that is. I think you picked up where I was. They mentioned the conference a couple times. So this is a First Nations conference talking about developing the Arctic. There were no Inuit people there. This is awful.
Never been so disgusted. I've been pretty disgusted listening to his voice. This was over the top. Him sitting there smugly, basically saying the red tape, and we just have to get through some more red tape without saying it out loud. And then going back to rhetoric from 15 years ago that he created himself.
Yeah.
How did you not scream at the top
Oh,
of your
God.
lungs?
Because I'm representing the organization I'm on the board for. But
so
you know
much,
what?
Steve.
This
Thank you
was
so
a
much for representing in such a very professional manner and bringing that information to us. Because without you, we wouldn't be learning these things, and we appreciate you so much. Thank you so
You're
much.
welcome.
For the time to educate us whiteys too, because I'm an ally and you know that. But I just thank you so much.
And you know, he talks about this road that they built to Tuck, but he didn't talk about Tuck sinking into the Arctic Ocean due to climate change. Like, come on. And he says there's no to little economy in the North. The way of life that Indigenous people live on the land is an Indigenous economy. And you don't devalue that. But this is a bunch of, I'm going to say it, colonized, the motivated, ambitious Indigenous people in this room who want to be part of the economic sector, and all the power to them. But there were two booths in this whole organization that had environment. The booth I sit at and the Impact Assessment Agency next to us, and we were shoved in a corner. The rest of it's Enbridge, TransCanada,
Ellis
the
Ross
big
is?
companies, like, hey,
Do you know who Ellis Ross is?
no,
So
maybe.
Ellis Ross is a politician in northern British Columbia who's First Nations, and he's basically, I'm just gonna say, he sold out his band for LNG, and now
Yeah.
he's trying to come back. He ran in the provincial election under the Conservative banner in the previous election. I met him briefly when he was in town here. I was not impressed, because he's basically sold his own band out to make money, and I just find that so disheartening. I'm just so sad about that.
You know, I just told a lot of people this today because I'm a due to consult practitioner for 18 years now. And what that means is when I used to work for TransCanada, TC Energy now, I'd come to a community and I'd say, okay, here's the project that we're proposing. How is this going to impact your rights? Let's talk about that. Let's do a study, get out there, assess the land, all of these things. Here's some money to do that. Let's have an elders meeting. Let's talk to your land users. Let's map this out, all of that. The women, when I'd meet with them, right away, they'd be like, okay, we want to understand the impacts to water. What's going to happen with the wildlife? The men almost always said to me, how much can we get for this? And like, that's important too, but we know what you're going to get financially because after we understand what you're going to lose, because it's a compensation. And we need both those voices at the table. And I was taught today that bundles our medicine bundles belong to men and women, and you carry the bundle together. So when we have that woman voice and that man voice, the woman who wants to protect the future generations and the water and the wildlife, then the men who look at the economics and the jobs and things, it comes together. But when you don't have the two, and especially when you want to talk to me right away, what can we get? How many jobs? You know, what are we going to get for a contract? Anyways, so this was a tough day for me because I'm in this space where I don't feel my voice is very strong. And I had to really keep myself together. So thank you guys for letting me share this with you because I needed to offload it a little bit and get the heaviness away. I love you guys so much.
Yeah, you pulled it together for that because there's no way I could have kept it together for that. And all the stuff he was spouting was trying to toot his own horn, and you could hear so much of Pierre Poilievre's rhetoric in that. And it's funny how he goes from talking of the reliance of having a relationship with the U.S. to now we need to step up to global trade and really boost our economy. and talking about his protections of the environment when he is the man who literally ignored climate initiatives. And oh, like, I don't know how you held it together, because just listening to that, like, I just felt like my brain was rotting on the inside.
And he
biggest
lied.
thing-
Like, he said that he put, when he passed that omnibus bill, he said they went from 40 departments to 3 that had to review a project. There was never 40. There's not even 40 departments in the federal government. What are you talking about, buddy? Like, it might have been NRCan, DFO, Environment and Climate Change, and maybe Indigenous Services. There have always been 5 ministries that hold the duty to consult and may have environmental oversight. That's it.
Yeah.
Since 1999. That's all. 40.
Yeah.
And
Everything he was talking about, the point that stood out to me too is he's like, all provinces should have a share of the profits from this. That's saying that the government should then make like a pipeline project a crown corporation. The government cannot afford to build a pipeline. Look what happened with the Trans Mountain pipeline. The government had to bail this out. You don't have the investors for this. We can't afford to build this large pipeline they want across all of the country that Quebec doesn't even want. Like, just everything in there. And I feel like he is speaking to ears that are just hearing the economic boost that this is going to have for the First Nations people. Like, they don't understand anything about this.
Yeah.
Well,
There
and
were
especially-
some. Sorry. Go ahead, Slim.
No, but to add into the environmental impact, like think about like all the forest fires that happened, like how more intense the forest fires are, all of like the logging, not putting back like how they've replanted trees hasn't been the right like way to sustain any of this. And especially with where I live now, I pay very close attention to like where the erosion is, what it was, like where the dry spots are, and all that type of stuff, including like. And from like I've lived on the coast as well, so and where I lived like in BC, that had a huge salmon run. Like that was part of like my youngest like preschool experience, was literally to go watch the salmon spawn and how important that is. Like I am just like, you piece of shit. You piece of shit. I hate that man so fucking much. I'm sorry, but like my kids also have like Indigenous lineage, how this goes, what that man has done to Canada, to sit there and act like you were the fucking savior when you literally ran us into the fucking ground. The Indigenous population will never, ever, ever be compensated for what the church fucking did.
Never.
There are still of this, none of the stuff for like reconciliation. Okay, I'm done. I'm so mad.
No, thank you.
You're allowed to be
It's
mad.
true.
You're valid, and every point. And it's good that you can get it out here in a safe space, because we all support that. Every word that you said, I will stand beside you as you scream it loud right in his face, right?
Yeah.
Because you have to have white allies as well as Indigenous allies standing arm in arm, because we're in this together. No matter how people on the that don't want to see it that way, we are in this together. Because you know what? At the end of the day, none of us are going anywhere, right? We have to make Canada the best we can for all of us, together as relatives, right? Relatives,
100%.
together, hand in hand, right? It's ridiculous that these people think that they've got privilege and they should, are entitled to more when they're stealing. Outright stealing. Colonization is theft. And that's how I feel about it in my heart. It's theft. Theft of a nation, theft of a culture, theft of a language, theft of everybody's childhood. You know what I mean? It was just generations and generations lost. There'll never be enough stories. There'll never be enough money. There'll never be enough reconciliation. There'll never be enough. And until Canadians see it like that, we're not going to get any steps forward. So we have to keep banging at these bigots and keep educating them every single day. You betcha. You know, I'm right there with you, sister. Again, Harper tried to take our rights away for MJ. He tried to take our patients' rights away too. This is on the same, not the same level, but he told us to send our plants to him in kitty litter. We sent him fucking kitty litter, all right. Used fucking kitty litter in boxes full of it. We took we took him to
But they don't read the treaties. They don't pay attention. They don't understand even the separatization like thing. It's like, do you realize that doesn't belong to you?
You
Do
gotta
it.
keep taking
I
him to
dare
court.
you.
You gotta keep
All
taking
of the
him to
things
court.
that he talked about too, all the things that he's bragging about, the relations with Indigenous people including them in the purchasing and having ownership of pipelines. Everything that he talked about, bragging about that, guess which government implemented those things? The Trudeau government.
I said that one time. I'm like, thanks, True Daddy.
Good for you. Good for you. Yay!
And as soon as he was done, I got up and left. Sorry,
so
Denise, I saw you wanted to say
CBC
something.
starting their elections. So the polls closed down in Down East in like 30, not even 30 minutes, 26 minutes and 33 seconds until the first polls closed.
26 minutes and 33 seconds.
26 minutes and 33 seconds. So we are on the tick. I went and got 20 balloons for our party tonight. I'm going to be heading out here about, I don't know, 4:45. And I'm not sure what time, Salish, you're going. You said 6, right, hun? So we'll just kind of I'll keep going, and then you can stay up or whatever works, right? I think I'm on after you anyway, right?
Yeah, Jana's off. Jana's on at 6 p.m. your time. She's taking over.
I'm done at 5.
Yeah, that's 6 p.m. their time. So.
Oh yeah.
And I'm good. Like I said, I can just take the phone with me because I got lots of 5G data. Like, I don't care. And then after that, I think Mrs. Radical's meet me over there. We're gonna do some decorating, and then we're gonna go live, either on one of ours. Like, we don't want to break into Beaver, but I think I'm on after. One of us is on the last bit. I'll be live. I can't remember the schedule. I'm sorry, my brain's scrambled today.
So have fun tonight, Pixie Lee. Have fun. You're going to be with us about another hour though, or?
Oh yeah, like I'm got the Beaver Network up for Salish, so I'm just hanging off in the background and piping in, my 2 cents when I have to.
Okay. Nice. I wanted to make a comment about this greasy person you were exposing us to. The conversation he had.
Ross Ellis.
There very eloquently that his current role as economic advisor, especially in relation to pensions,
Ellis Ross, yes.
we have a global scope. Now, he is working and chairs the International Democratic Union, which is about right-wing governments who never give Indigenous people rights. He is How do you square the circle on this one, right?
It was part of his introduction. They even said it in the introduction, and how he manages the AIMCO pension plans in Alberta. I was just sitting there going and looking around why am I? And I knew I wasn't alone. There were others.
The AWC where they're making facial recognition drones and grading.
I didn't hear them say that. I didn't, and I didn't record the introduction because I wasn't sure if he was going to be 45 minutes or how long he was up. So I didn't want to. I'm already out of my cloud storage.
I'm really glad that you did. That's just amazing that you got that on that's amazing.
That's gold.
That's evidence.
That's gold right there.
That's evidence. That's evidence to anybody that that wants to say, "Oh well, Harper, here's the evidence for you. I got it right in my hand, fucker."
Yeah.
I started counting the looks. I counted 8, and I crossed them out. 8, where he said, "Look, or well, look." Just that whole, and he does it off by rote. He is very used to having sort of that condescending approach. Mm-hmm. And that was on full display. And really bothered me though, all the clapping when up the bootstrap kind of comment that came out. Get back to work. Haven't we heard that from Tiny Trump?
Yeah.
The lost decade.
Yeah. Oh my God, my blood boiled then too. I was like, oh.
Few instances that really kind of stick out to me. As far as I thought, under conservative kind of ideology or their view on things, I thought being a globalist was a bad thing, and they've criticized Carney for such a thing. But yet he's sitting there talking about globalizing trade and being a player on the global market, as well as, and it could have just been his tone of voice when he said it, but he was talking about the Indigenous having a seat at the table. His wording was, as long as they think they have a voice at the table.
I caught that too.
It was his inflection on it that really made me question, okay, did he really just say that? Was was that his context? That's how he meant it. And I really do truly feel he meant to say, as long as they think they have a seat at the table, we're good.
Yep.
I
caught that. Oh, it's gross. It's I can't even believe I had to go through that. I think I need to go shower. There's so much to talk about it, but I'm gonna try to figure out how to take snippets if I can and make some other TikToks. I might need some technological support for that, but we'll figure it out. But yeah, it's crazy.
Everybody cross your fingers. We're coming to the final countdown. So, I mean, we'll know within the next, 6-7 hours, give or take a little bit here. So, hang on to your butts. It might be a bumpy road.
Yeah.
Yeah, it'll be very interesting to see how the East has voted, and hopefully they voted strategically in our favor.
I hope so. I have no faith in my province.
Neither do I.
I have no faith in my riding, but I have a lot of faith in my province.
Yeah.
And it's crazy. Like I myself am in Ontario, and I can say like we've generally voted the opposite, kind of on average as we do provincially. So I feel like we're still going to see a good turnout for Liberals in Ontario, and I think NDP will probably kind of surprise people. I think in Ontario, because the NDP really has had strongholds federally and provincially in the north. Right. So I think we're going to see kind of a bolstering of that on the federal level up here in Northern Ontario. So I think it'll be pretty pleasant for Ontario.
Well, and then just remember that Saskatchewan, Alberta, and BC combined only have 84 seats combined. Right? There's 330 some seats in Parliament. That's not enough. You combine all those big loud voices all together, and it will not make a dent.
And that's all. Well, sorry. And that's honestly where the Conservative vote is going to come from in the country, right? It's going to come from those provinces. I mean, I don't think a lot of people understand, like as a British Columbian, how many Conservatives are actually in British Columbia. It is a large majority of Conservatives. People think we're very progressive, but it's only Vancouver Island. The interior of British Columbia is 100% conservative, and it has been for a very long time.
Like interior BC is mostly conservative, is it not?
It is, yeah. I'm in the interior BC. It's all conservative.
Yeah.
Same.
Once you leave Vancouver, it's conservative. By the time you get to Hope, it's conservative.
Yeah, that's what I've heard.
Well, even Agassiz.
Abbotsford is extremely
Mission.
conservative.
Mm-hmm.
It's really just the downtown core.
And Salish, have you had, because you live in the area, the tragedy that happened on the weekend? Are we expecting to see any of that raise its ugly head during today? Like, are there people out there being more racist?
I mean, I hope not. I hope that it's woken people up a bit, but at the end of the day, I think honestly, in my own opinion, there will be some things that happen today. I believe if Mark Carney wins, something tragic will happen at the end of the day.
Yeah.
I believe that there are some very unhinged people on the far side of the right now that are they would go off
Kelowna.
They would go off the rails. Oh, lots in Kelowna, lots in my area, tons in my area. I'm in I'll just say like the Osoyoos, between Osoyoos, Caramunis area.
Salish, you and I are a lot closer than you think.
I'm in the East Kootenays, and you think you're blue? It's blue. Like a bale of hay could put a blue shirt and a goddamn conservative button on it, and these fuckers would still vote for it. I grew up in Lethbridge.
I grew up in the Coots.
We packed a bale of hay around Lethbridge one year for an election, and the fucker still won. And yeah, it was ridiculous. But we did. We packed a bale of hay around to every debate because Jim Hillier refused to show up for any debate. So me and a group of us packed a bale of hay with a blue shirt and a conservative button and Stop Harper signs around to every debate in Lethbridge that year.
I've emailed every single one of my MLAs and MP in my riding, and I haven't heard back from a single one. It is so conservative here, and they don't care. And I'm not like emailing them with something threatening or anything like that. I'm just generally asking questions from their platform and bills and all of the such above, and not a single one has gotten back to me. And when I brought this to my community, the community reached out and said the exact same thing. They've tried to call and email and they haven't heard back. Like in Alberta, it is just deaf ears. They do not care.
Yeah, same thing goes like here in my riding in Northern Ontario. Like for the Conservative candidate, I went to the local debate, and the Conservative person running didn't show up to debate, and that's a lot of what the North was saying for this riding in terms of they just never showed up to the debates. And to me, it would be really telling to the Conservative voters, like they're not willing to come and have a conversation with and for you. Why do you think they're gonna do things in a way that's gonna help you at the end of the day? It's not gonna happen.
Well, this is the play that the United States did. Donald Trump did the same thing. He had one debate, he didn't do another debate at all. So because they have such a strong social media game, they're relying solely on rage baiting everybody to get them to go vote. And you see it already. You were just talking about it, that some people are very unhinged in some areas.
Absolutely. We saw some in here today.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, some of the words that came across in here, and I'm not talking about people who didn't understand how things actually work. I'm talking about someone who literally just came right into the room, said some extremely unethical and rather just completely disgusting things, and then just wanted to rage. It wasn't even rant. Go ahead and rant, because I have no problems. Everybody deserves to have a rant. There's always something that's got to be said, and if you have something to say, get it off your chest. It needs to be done. But when you walk into a room and you're using words like that came out of that person's mouth, it was just disgusting. Words no one needs to be hearing ever.
All candidates, I think, from the Conservative Party were told to shut their mouth, and pre-scripted lines were only allowed. Because even in the debate here in Sydney, I attended one of them. It was all pre-scripted lines. It was nothing original. There was no questions from the people. And Anna Manley, she's not taking any questions from anybody in public.
They probably don't have answers. They probably don't know what the answers are, Calvin. I mean, that's part of the problem.
They don't know what the answers are.
Half of them are just there so they can rage, and they don't know what they're raging about.
Yeah, and a lot of them are just on board the populist train for a free paycheck.
And it's really kind of sad, because I don't want someone who's going to represent, and I don't care what party it is at this stage in the game. I mean, I do, that's a lie. But I'm saying, if it winds up being whoever, I need you to know that if I turn to your office for whatever reason, you damn well better answer my call, and you better have the information that I'm looking for. And if you don't, own it and say, you know what, but I'm going to put you in with someone who can blah, 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 right? At least feed me a line of crap if you're going to do that, but make some bloody effort to do the job that you were elected to do.
I've never liked Donald Trump's tweets, but I certainly loved his tweet this morning. It gave us an advantage. It really, him tweeting that really put the spotlight on Pierre Poilievre. So I'm sure it changed a few minds.
I just wanted to highlight a comment here from Charlene, and it states that we can't vote if the Liberals win, or gloat if the Liberals win. We don't want to push anybody over the edge, right? Like, and I kind of agree with that. Like, yeah, we can be happy we won, but
I don't think any Liberal will be gloating. I think the Liberal population is still in touch with reality. I honestly don't think Liberals will be gloating. I think most of us know and realize that this is very critical and a matter of sovereignty. So once we get past this election, we all realize there's more work to be done because the IDU and Pierre Poilievre and Azira they have a whole structure in place that needs to be taken down, and we basically content creators are the bots. People, I know some people they banned Facebook and Meta and all that, but really that doesn't work because that's where our target audience is at. So we have to be active on those platforms and post on those platforms also.
Yeah, and
Agreed.
to go with that too, I think at the end of the day, I think most people, whether you're liberal or you want to say you're more left leaning, if the liberals win over the conservatives, I think the biggest thing a lot will do is have a sigh of relief first and foremost, and realize we're more equipped at that point to be able to weather the storm moving
But how
forward.
Parliament works is never like, even with majority government, there's always debate, there's always committees, and there's always groups of like both sides making policies, right? So it's never a matter of just stuff getting jammed down everybody's throat because they always do committees. They always take both sides of the aisle. There's party leaders, and even if they're a minority, it's still they don't just ignore everything that the people want because constituents, no matter whether you're a conservative, NDP, you have to answer to your constituents. And you go to Ottawa and you're supposed to be speaking for those people, not your party line. And if you look at the conservatives, they've all been spewing party line for 2 years. They're not listening to their constituents. They're not speaking for their constituents or the people that vote for them. And the conservative MPs will talk to the people that vote for them, but the people that don't vote for them don't matter.
One thing is going to happen after this election, if it doesn't go PP's way, because if it goes PP way, we're all screwed. But if it goes Mark Carney's way, a lot of people are going to realize how critical First Nations are. And then the treatment of First Nations and the recognition of rights are drastically going to change. So we are going to see a lot more. There's going to be two groups of people that are going to be really targeted after this election. That's the youth vote, because the youth have been largely been ignored, and the Conservative Party was the first party that really targeted their group. And then the next party would be the Indigenous group.
And that's exactly it. Is you're going to take the more marginalized people that we've ignored for how many years, and we really haven't given them anything, but now we're going to give them, and we're going to wave that little worm in front of their face because we baited that hook. And we're going to say, oh, we're going to make you the richest people because, hey, at this stage in the game, and I don't care who you are, well, I shouldn't say that because, again, we all know there's people who don't struggle in this. They might say that they've struggled or they've lost money. Well, you losing a few million isn't really as bad as struggling. I'm sorry, I don't feel sorry for you to the same kind of level. But again, if we want to take people who we've turned around for years, and for so many have stated so many horrible, incorrect information about people, who are Indigenous people or people in the North, and saying all of these things. So if you go now and give them something that they've never had, it's going to be very attractive, but it's like anything else. How much is it going to cost you? How much is the weight of your soul, right? Because that's what it's going to come down to, is if we're going to give you this, but we're going to take everything from you. What is that? Where is that going to be of any benefit to anyone? Because if you don't know where you came from, if you can't answer the questions or have a conversation with people in your own language that needs to be encouraged and stated louder and talked about in so many different circles, then you can't turn around and say to somebody, oh, no, you can no longer be that person because we've given you this money. So this is who you are now. And how is that any damn different than putting them and scooping them up and saying, now, we don't like how you've been, so this is what we're going to do. This is the new residential school.
Yeah.
We are going to change you one way or the other. We are going to make you look like us and sound like us. And that is not on my watch. Not on my watch. No damn way. I don't care. I am as white as they come. But I have always stood up. I have had people say to me, you can't say that. Who the hell are you to say that? Who the hell are you to tell me I shouldn't?
Hmm.
Because I have faced things in my life, and I would never want anyone else to face them. And I cannot imagine what some of these. I mean, I'm not even going to talk about the Indigenous men because that's just bad enough as it is. When you turn to say to somebody, "We're going to cut your hair," what? Cut your hair? Who the fuck are you to come near me with a pair of scissors? Because we might have a serious problem, and then you might be feeling the scissors, but it won't because you're putting them through my hair.
I
No,
have to
no.
drop down here. I have to get ready. We're doing a live with Maple Mines for the election coverage. Before I go, uh, after this election, if it goes to Pierre Poilievre's way, then all of us have to mobilize. We will be the resistance that Canada needs and organize, and we have to meet one another. I don't know. We have to get some kind of funding so we can meet in Toronto somewhere and organize, just like how the IDU organizes all the other fractions of their party. And the same thing, if it goes Mark Carney's way, it doesn't mean our job is done. We still have to organize and continue to meet like this and plan.
I agree.
With that said, guys, I have to drop down and take a quick shower and get ready.
And that's why we're
Take
better.
care, Calvin.
Thanks
Bye-bye.
for coming up, Calvin. We're better activists than we are politicians, right? Because if we're politicians
Yes.
from the inside, you have to learn to lie. So as an activist that's been active since 2006, you hold them to the fire, feet to the fire, and keep on doing it. Doesn't matter who wins.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
Guys, just quick, I wanted to interject. We are, by my clock, 5 minutes away from the first polls closing. We are
I
T
have
minus
6.
Oh, 6. There you go.
I got 6, but I like 5 better. We'll go with 5 instead of that, Moose.
There we go. Yeah, so we're getting close, guys. We're getting close to game time. So
I know. Just remember, we got to breathe. We just got to breathe. Just got to keep breathing.
I keep singing that.
5 minutes and 26 seconds, and they close in Newfoundland. So
anxiety, oh anxiety.
exactly. We'll just all do the video. Anxiety. You know,
Right?
exactly.
It's been like that all day.
It's been like that for 2.5 years. I cannot lie, you guys. This is. I have to say, I know I've said this to you many times. I appreciate the Beaver Network probably more than I have in any other group that I've been on in any social media platform. I appreciate the opinions of each and every one of you. I appreciate even necessarily agree with, but I appreciate that they get to come up here and express their opinions and their voices too. I don't think you guys get enough credit for what you do. So I just want you to make sure that at the end of tonight, no matter what happens, please pat yourselves on the back for every damn bit of information, every live that you have had, every bit of hard work that you have put into making the rest of us reignited again and make sure that we say what we have to say and stand up for what we believe in.
Yeah.
So thank you for that one.
Beaver Network is celebrating as our 1-year anniversary tonight. You know, we've been here a year before this election. We'll be here after this election.
And that's the way to do it.
Run on politics. But I appreciate your feedback. Really, it makes us feel very good. You know, sometimes, you know, our voice is a little quieter here, but there's a reason for that. Anybody stops into one of our lives and listens for a few minutes, they're going to leave with a piece of information that's valuable, that they can walk away and chew on. And even if they don't, it'll sit there somewhere, you know.
So I'm just again in Nova Scotia. I have our CBC on. They are showing some things left. We have less than 3.5 minutes till Newfoundland closes. So yeah, I'm hoping. I'm hoping we have some numbers here soon.
Well,
I need to see something. I need to see some red.
We should have some, you know, hopefully the early polls have been counted. I don't know if they have rules provincially or how that works. Like, exactly when do the early polls get started?
I was told by the pollsters, because I voted at the actual office in my area, and she said that as soon as the polls in my area close, they count them at the same time.
They do. They start as soon as the poll closes. They all start. Everything gets closed down. The boxes get opened, and they start to get made up. And it can go for hours. And that's the kicker. So we have to remember that we have to be kind to those people counting, because these are all counted by hand. There are no machines. These are all counted by hand. And we have to remember, we also have had people, again, I had to explain this, I don't know how many times to people, when you are university students who live outside of the province, the ballot that you voted for in advance polls, although they may not have been advertised on your card, are done with blank ballots. They have to be counted. Now, there is no guarantee that you're going to spell the person's name right, but that's all right, because as long as you have made the effort to go through and put the person in as best as possible, each member of the party has a person who's counting and looking at those ballots. These are not just decided by everybody. There is everyone from a party is looking at these ballots, folks. So just remember that.
Oh,
Hello,
I know.
Smarsh. Okay, I'm done now, folks. Sorry, I talked too much. I know.
Beautiful. I enjoy your
Uh,
conversation. I really do.
I came out
Vera.
talking. I will not stop until I take the last breath, guys. That's how
One
that's going to
minute,
go.
7
That's how it is.
seconds.
1
Five,
minute.
Yes.
4, 3, 2, 1. 1 minute.
1 minute. 1 minute. Well, I have here what says 1 minute and 26 seconds until Newfoundland closes. So
Yeah.
let's
So
hope.
we're-
I got
Let's
50
hope.
seconds.
So,
So again, you need 172 seats for majority. Okay, folks, 172. There's the magic number.
I just
I'm
enjoy
saying 180.
I'm so happy that we get to be a part of this historic event. That we can say
Absolutely.
whether how successful we're deemed, it doesn't matter. We got to be doing this and be aware, right? Unlike other people who are, for the very first time in their lives, sometimes waking up to politics and the fear that is in their hearts because they don't know politics, because they don't understand bureaucracy, because they don't understand things like a beautiful calling like yours.
5,
How much
4, 3,
actually
2,
at a polling
1.
station.
Polls are closed. Honk, honk, let's go, Canada.
All right. There. They are closed.
And let's give credit to all of our poll workers today. I worked like 12 to 18 hours when I did a day. Poll workers work hard. They're there until like
They
midnight.
do.
Absolutely
If
do.
not later.
Oh yeah, many times later. If they can't get those books to balance, they stick around till we do. They find that one
Exactly.
vote back with their counts, with the the way each
Okay.
fucker knows and the amount of paperwork to
So-
one time decide it.
So Newfoundland has 7 ridings that we're going to be looking at. Okie doke.
And
I
liberal
mean, I
is
don't imagine we're going to have numbers here already. We might.
I don't know. CBC's right on it though, and they got a nice easy part.
True.
I think I'm on the. Well, we're both on the. I'm doing live CBC through YouTube. That's what I got on the go.
Well, I stream mine, but I am on CBC, so yeah.
I can put the volume on. Can you see that? Okay, if I put it like that. But I don't want to put my
We can
volume
see
on
it.
too high because then nobody can talk, right? So I'm just gonna leave it. Like I'm trying to get it on my stand so everybody can see that. But again, I'm not gonna put the volume on because then nobody else can talk. So I'm just gonna try and sit this so you can see the numbers if that's okay.
Yeah, I think that's great.
Yeah, there it is.
Fantastic.
Yeah, we just need to see the numbers. Yeah, just to ask a question because I'm just very curious. Now, I mean, let's be honest, and I'm not sure if everybody did know that, but are people aware that university students did get blank ballots so that they could write their people in? Like, were people aware of that?
I'm
Yeah,
aware.
okay,
I wasn't
'cause
aware
a
of
lot of
that.
people didn't. Yeah, well, because a lot of people weren't, and that's the kicker. Like like I said, I don't know how many times. Even when I was on, I voted on the day before Easter, and on the Saturday, and so I said, people were talking about, well, did you get a real ballot? Well, yes, of course I got a real ballot. Every ballot is real that is handed to you by an election officer. It's whether it's blank or not is when you have to fill it in, but that still happens. So
Okay, well, I just want to say thank you very much for having me up. I have a cheese emergency and I have to run to the store. So,
oh geez, you
Oh my
gotta go.
God, not a cheese emergency.
No, you can't
Sorry.
have that.
No.
Everybody, no, that's
Yes.
tragedy. You better
there was
go
a
now.
craving
Go.
for tuna cheese melt and everything was
Oh
ready
my God,
Oh, yeah.
and there's no cheese.
you gotta
so,
go. Oh no, you gotta do that.
I got to take care of that right now
Yes.
because
You
we
gotta
all
take
need
care of
comfort
business.
foods today. But thank you very
Dum,
much.
dum, dum, dum.
I did
I will
bacon
probably
spaghetti.
be back.
See you later.
Awesome. Hurry back.
I think I'm going to eat my feelings too.
Yeah, I made a 5-pound baked spaghetti. I think it was about 5 pounds between the lives.
Oh my God, that sounds delicious.
5 pounds. Oh my God.
They're all
How many
grease
are you
eater.
feeding?
Is this
Uh,
Peter eats food?
3 of us.
Everybody's
See,
going to be
that-
asleep in a half an hour. You understand that, like Solis, right? Yeah, like all that
At
that
this
pasta,
point,
all
like-
them carbs. So everybody's like, you'll be out like a light.
Yeah. At
Oh
this
my
point,
God, that looks delicious.
food
Treaty,
is not.
you must be tired from last night staying up with us.
A little bit, but I'm okay.
We're having our
Sleep.
cookie dancing party.
Oh my
at
God,
like
I was
3
just
in the
telling my
morning.
daughter. We're all
Cookie
gingerbread
dancing party?
cookies. Yeah, we were
Oh, that
gingerbread
sounds cool.
cookies dancing. We were all rocking out to Rage Against the Machine.
Oh, well, see, that's the appropriate tunes too. That's what you need to headbang to while you're in your gingerbread outfit, right? There you go.
It was hilarious. Right? Like hilarious. Let's see.
Sometimes you just have to dance, and it doesn't matter who's watching. You know.
Yeah.
I am trying to Google myself a way to just how long does it take for results to come in after a poll closes? Like,
Well, a
few
couple
things
hours.
the answer.
We'll start
That's
to
the
see, I
problem.
think, within like 20 minutes, you might see a little bit of trickling in of numbers, but the vast majority, like, it'll get quicker after the first hour or so. Then you'll start to see a lot more
It's
start to
the
come in, especially when you see other provinces start to close the polls and start tallying. Uh, but
I think it's a
just
safe
quickly,
assumption that
guys. Oh,
Go ahead. No, go ahead.
No, I was
All
just
right.
going to say for any of the space cadets that are tuning in right now, I am currently getting ready to blast off, and I would encourage you to do the same. It's going to be it's going to be a ride.
I'm already locked and loaded, buddy.
I just want to remind you that we're on
I
the
was waiting for the lean.
we're on the Beaver Network and we're accepting gifts and subscriptions for all the emotional commitment to making these shows run. We appreciate everybody's support, and we're going to have this marathon, all things election, right up until every last result is in, so we know who is the assured winner, and then some. So, yeah, I just want to put a plug out there for the Beaver Network, just in case people were wondering, you know, who's in the picture there in Pixie's.
I just wanted to say something quick because last time I worked the elections was 2015, and by the time I got home from the polls at 9:30, the election had already been called for Trudeau. So it could go fairly quickly. Just saying, once the numbers start rolling, the first calls are made from the offices within the first hour of, like, every hour on the hour, they call into the polls and report what they have already counted.
Okay. So we have one for Conservative at a Newfoundland at this point. That's what I'm seeing on CBC.
Yeah.
It says the lead here so far, and which is very surprising and very concerning, because they were projected to pretty much go red. Now that's only one poll.
Yeah, it totally depends on who's, you know.
I think it's the same riding that went blue last time.
Jason Kenney was at this conference today too.
Was he?
Really?
Yes, he opened up the
Oh.
opening. I missed the opening because I slept in.
You probably didn't miss much then, eh, Katie?
He speaks tomorrow.
I seen
Again.
Gordon Campbell the other day. Christy Clark has slithered out from underneath her rock. Stephen Harper's front and center again. Jason Kenney's front and center. Let's see.
What is going on?
They talk
That's
about
kind of scary. Is that a premonition of what's coming? Maybe they're planning something.
Yeah, well, they got some nerve to complain that the Liberals are the same old party when they got all these players stepping up to the plate for them today.
Oh, the good old Reform Party.
Yeah.
Oh, I love the word reform. Yeah, right.
You notice in that video played of Harper how he didn't give Carney any credit for helping him through the 2008 crisis?
Absolutely not. He wouldn't.
No.
No.
But we all know he did.
Well, yes, we do know he did. There's video proof of it, and that's the funny part,
Right?
Is worded to we lack regulatory process. Like, the way he softballs the phrasing to say really devastating, environmentally important pieces of conversation, to slip them in as if they don't mean anything.
Yeah.
Like I have to always wonder. We talked about developing in the north and things like that, but if you take away the crucial ice and the get down and cause issue with the tundra, how great is it going to be, right? If we don't have places for people to be friggin' living, how great is it going to be, right? What is the point of that?
Yeah.
I mean, we all know, we're not stupid. We are not uneducated people. And anyone who actually knows any geography of how things go, we know why Canada's north is extremely important for the rest of the country, for the rest of the world.
Yeah.
They need us. We need our north because it's our people. This is what it's part of Canada. But we don't need what's happening in there because it's destroying more than it's actually doing on the positive. I'm not one who's going to be in the oil and gas sector, guys. Sorry, I will always be. If you can go as green as possible, that's my way of thinking. Because we've seen too much damage already, right? And I'm from someone who only lives 25 minutes from what is now the shut down, Imperial Oil Refinery that was here in Dartmouth, right, in the Eastern Passage area. So, and I mean, how many people did that employ? I have an uncle who is a draftsman for Irving. So trust me, the oil and gas sector isn't really a good thing in my mind, but I realize it employs the country. And we still have how many cars, and people still heat their homes with all of the, the products and whatnot. But I think we need to come up with something a little bit more, because at what cost is it going to be?
Right.
Well, you just came out with a beautiful plan. The biggest, greatest, beautifulest plan ever.
The biggest, beautifulest, greatest plan ever.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Who does that sound like, right?
They said it couldn't be done. And what did he do? Build it, and they shall come. He has just signed the contract for a big hydro to generate energy, to be part of that energy corridor across Canada. When you get
there, you go.
Now, you're gonna be able to have a piece of the corridor driven by hydro. He has dedicated, this new plant has dedicated 40 gigawatts, or whatever the number, letters after the number. There's going to 450 gigawatts. 50 of them are going to go to power Nunavut. In saying that, the rest is going to be sold on to sell the Dakotas, and
Well, that's okay.
but also to stabilize as part of the energy corridor across Canada. And to add to that, he had the Prime Minister from Finland there. There was 3 European country prime ministers, dignitaries, and they were making deals to trade a new trade route up through Nunavut and over to Europe. That's how it's done. Can't say it can't be done. Capitalism has ways of making things happen. If you,
I know that just being in this area, because again, I'm the daughter and the granddaughter of coal miners. And Nova Scotia Power, unfortunately, still uses coal to heat and get the power going. And then it's to me, I think it's kind of redundant. I'm like, haven't we gotten past this now? And as that whole the Muskrat Falls that was supposed to be going on between Newfoundland and getting all of this, I was really hoping this would be great. This is going to be a greener energy. This will be good. We'll have this done. And again, nope, that didn't happen, right? So
You
it's
say
kind of like that is something more that I would be waiting for. So I'd love to have something that would be a cleaner
okay. Good.
sources here. Yeah. You
I
know, because
thought
even if you decide that you're going with green, we only have one power company in Nova Scotia, and you still have to go with them to get your power. And I'm thinking, well, that doesn't really make a lot of sense to me, but okay, sure, right? But yeah, I don't know.
And
So,
did you catch what Harper said in that interview today about we're still relying on the conventional energy? So
oh,
oil
yes.
and
Oh,
gas.
I picked up on that one, Trady. I did.
Have you guys
Yeah.
read it? I just picked this up in the airport on my way. So I've gotten through the first 2 chapters.
Which one is it, dear?
It's Mark Carney's
Oh,
values.
I haven't seen it yet. No.
I haven't read it.
I almost need a dictionary to read it. But I
Oh,
get like
really?
there's some things I have to read over just to understand the concept. I'm a scientist, not an economist, right? Like
Yeah, it's
biology
very-
is my gig.
Very dry read, but the parts where he talks about social values and
Yeah.
the people is very interesting perspective, because what I got from the whole book is he is very fiscally kind of conservative when it comes to economics, but his social values and what he thinks of community and indigenous peoples and our vulnerable populations, he's very, very social.
I'm going to read you a little bit. There's just a big, I want to read you. So, Pope Francis surprised us by joining a lunch and sharing a parable. He observed that our meal will be accompanied by wine. Now, wine is many things. It has a bouquet, color, and richness of taste that all complement the food. It has alcohol that can enliven the mind. Wine enriches all of our senses. At the end of our feast, we will have grappa. Grappa is one thing, alcohol. Grappa is wine distilled. He continued, humanity is many things, passionate, curious, rational, altruistic, creative, self-interested. But the market is one thing, self-interested. The market is humanity distilled. And then he challenged us. Your job is to turn the grappa back into wine, to turn the market back into humanity. This isn't theology. This is reality. This is the truth. And then Mark Carney says, this book draws on my experience in the private sector and public policy to examine the relationship between value and values, how they shape each other, and how, by doing so, they can determine our livelihoods, identities, and possibilities, and how, once we recognize these dynamics, we can turn grappa back into wine. That gave me a little bit of hope. So I thought that was a little bit insightful into him too. You know, that stood out to him. So
We're 1-1 now.
1-1.
Yeah, I was just gonna chime in. We are
2-1
right now.
on
I've
my
got
screen.
2-1.
But we're 2-1 now.
oh my God.
2-1 for the Conservatives, and we are 14 minutes away from the next set of polls closing.
How can it be 2-1?
They're going to come and look for us and offer us jobs from CBC when we're done here tonight.
As long as it's not CTV, because we all saw what they did to Rachel Gilmore, so fuck those guys.
Right? 100%. You know, I'm kind of tired of Rosemary. I used to really respect her, but I don't know what happened. Like,
You're funny.
Well, it's shifted, right? I apologize, I don't remember his name offhand, but the bald commentator at this point, I think, has kind of taken that mantle of like holding truth to power, and she just more of a commentator.
right.
I'll get his name. I do enjoy him. Yeah.
I like him too, but she seems more biased than I've ever seen her.
Yeah, she's getting
Yeah,
the.
she did. She bit the conservative bug for sure. I just don't even know what happened to Rosie, but yeah, how can this be 2-1? Like this? What the actual fuck?
I know. Okay, let's remain calm. We got a long night.
Oh my God. Yeah, I'm gonna what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna turn this off. I'm gonna have to start getting ready to head to the hall. So I'll keep this on, but I'm just gonna take my camera off and make Salish big. And I'm still listening, but I gotta get cracking here.
All right. Who's read this one? On Tyranny.
Have not.
On Tyranny, 20 Lessons from the 20th Century. It's just a little book. My speed. No. Oh, I got so much reading to do.
David Cochrane, that's his name.
Yes, that's his name.
I have enjoyed him because he does push back truth on power for what that looks like for mainstream media. Yeah.
And he fact checks too.
Mm-hmm. That's important. So we're going to go back and forth all night long, I think.
Oh yeah.
Want to bop till 11 o'clock at night now. I just want to like close my eyes and wake up and just have it all. No, I'm going to live every tense moment with this.
Just fast forward, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I think, the work's done. The work's done. There is nothing more that we could possibly be doing at this point, right? Unless you're just driving someone to the polls close at 8 o'clock out here. But once they close in Ontario, that's it. That's where the decisions are going to be made. Alberta has often said that, Northern BC, that's not fair. That's not fair that they don't have as many seats. But it's all based on a population demographic. And if you want a louder voice, then you attract people to come to your province. You build your population. That's how you do it in a democratic country, right? You don't just get to go and put up blockades and hold a community hostage so that you can get that goal, so that your political voice becomes becomes louder than what's happening back east. There's a way to go about doing this that doesn't require violence.
Choo-choo. So I have a question to Mrs. Because I hear a lot of people talking about this desire for election reform, but I'm not up on that topic. So what would election reform look like? Or anybody that like how do we reform our system or what?
I think they're talking about like a ranked ballot system. I'm not too sure about the total details of it myself, but like I think kind of just like how leaders are elected for parties. I think they want a ranked ballot system.
Oh, instead of first past the post or whatever.
Yeah.
We would get rid of first past the post, and what you would do is put in proportional representation. And there's a number of systems that would give you proportional representation. In British Columbia, we tried to do that. The NDP government was elected on changing our first past the post system into this proportional representation. However, what happened was they didn't spend the time to educate the citizens on what proportional representation is. And when they gave them the ballot to vote on, they gave them 3 choices. And none of them were thoroughly enough explained. And I believe that was sort of done on purpose. And it was one of the reasons that I was upset when John Horgan was running the NDP government, because it does take some learning. There are different options under proportional representation. And I don't want to, I'm not the expert on it, but the things are, there's a mixed member proportional representation. There's, what's the other one? Oh, I'm just trying to do a quick read here, but anyways, that's the idea here. I'll give you the definition for, I just clicked on it, it took me away. So proportional where'd it go? Proportional representation refers to the general principle found in the electoral system in which the popularly chosen subgroups, or parties in this case, of an electorate are reflected proportionately within the elected body. To achieve that intended effect, proportional electoral systems need to have more than 1 seat in each district, right? It has to be proportional, or have some form of compensatory seats. So I know that up here in Northern British Columbia, they're fighting for another MP to represent them, right? It's a vast space. From where I start, where our riding starts, to the top is 12 hours.
Well, we've got
Mm-hmm.
we did split a couple ridings in British Columbia this election because of the fact that population has grown. So our riding was actually split into two in both provincial and federal elections. But proportional voting, to be fair, I'm just going to set this to you. See how Israel's working right now when you got 500 different parties ripping each other apart, all trying to decide what should be right and what should be wrong. Do we really need more cooks in the kitchen? And that's my opinion on proportional voting. I don't like a two-party, but we have, like I said before, we have over 100 registered parties in Canada already. All those parties would have to do is get a candidate, get their signatures, and go, because they are already registered with Elections Canada. It's just that there's no will for those parties to come forward, I guess. But I don't think proportional voting, again, that we've got these 5 parties and, we're all bored and, it's been this way since the beginning of time. But in other words, how else are we going to change it? Because all I see when I hear proportional voting is Israel. And I've been screaming that for 5 years, 6 years, 10 years. Proportional voting means too many cooks in the kitchen, and how can everybody be represented? That means we would all be putting a stone in a pot and all sitting around a table, all 39 million of us, trying to decide what the hell we wanted.
Well, there's also a breakdown then called mixed member proportional representation. So there's a counter argument and there's options of how to break that down. And you know what, I'm not the person to have that expert conversation with, but I do hear what you're saying there, and I see the risk involved in that. But I also know that, like with any system, there's going to have to be checks and balances put in place. We can also take a good, democracy is a great idea until somebody abuses it. Are you telling me, like, Schmisriel is a democracy, right? We're protecting that and sending money over to protect a different country.
There is no longer a democracy because they went to proportional voting. And when you have too many cooks in the kitchen, it's no longer a democracy. It becomes a autocracy. And then you have one guy at the top that's being held up by all these other little men at the bottom. It's a trickle-down situation, kind of like what's going on with Trump in the States as well. It's just a different version of it.
And nothing gets done. Nothing gets accomplished.
We're at 3-2 now for the Liberals.
Okay, good. Let's have a breathe now, everybody. In through the nose and out through the mouth. There we are, right? There we go. We do it again. And all right, let it go.
Okay, I'm packing
I'll
up
sing later.
my little purses. I'm taking you all with me. We are now going to be traveling.
Woohoo! Road trip.
Check on when you're driving. They'll cancel the live. That happened there a couple nights ago.
Okay, how do I do
You have
that?
to change your background to something else.
Like, I'm just going to, like, I'm not going to be live. Like, I'm just going to have the mute off. Like, do I just take my camera? Like, how do I pause the live? Because then if I pause and Salish goes down, like, does the whole place go down?
Correct. So
do we want to switch over before I leave then? Does somebody else want to pop up? Like, who's supposed to be going on at 6? Jana, right?
Oh, yeah, Jana's going to be opening up in a half an hour.
Okay.
And so is there any way to you to hang on till or as close to 5 or 6 or 7?
I can hang out for probably another 15 minutes. I just want to be there. Like, I have to be there for 6 because we can get in at 6, and then we open the doors at 6:30 for the party to start, and I got to decorate. And I don't think I can get in there till 6, and it's 5:30 here now. So I can hang in for another 15 minutes if that's okay. Like,
yeah. We're all hanging with you.
I'll just smoke another one.
There you go.
Let's do that.
And I can put the live on too, but I don't have a background. Like, I don't have a new background. I have my old one.
I think we'll just be putting it live on for like 10 minutes or so till Jan comes on at 6. So we may just end up dropping it with a few minutes to spare. Just the way it is, like as volunteers here on the Beaver Network, we're not clocking in the same way, that, we're held to no clock that way for sure.
Hey, it's my pleasure to always do this. I don't ever think of this as being anything more than my pleasure. To be able to hang out with you guys and do this is just like so much fun. Never mind, it's like me meeting you guys has been a real pleasure, and I just love it.
You know what? Same for us, Pixie. Like, where Perry and I live, we have no friends. Like, we're scared of our neighbors. Well, he's not, but I am.
Yeah, I feel that.
Me too.
You know, like, so this, you guys are our best friends. Like, we don't have a lounge or a pub or anything that we go to. We hang out with you guys.
You know,
Yeah, that's what, like, me too. I go to work, and then I come home, and then I come and hang out with you guys. Because, I mean, I live in a really conservative town, and everybody like, just wants to drink and, you know, do other bad things that I'm too old for that shit. Like, I'm just too old for that crap.
Sean's requesting to come up. I'm not allowed to, or I'm not able to let anybody up right now. So.
I can let them up.
yeah, I'm on this day. Woo, where'd he go? Oh, somebody else let. I'm not fast on this.
I did it. I'm on it. I was on it. Sorry, guys.
I think Lori's trying to come up too, because she did request it. I saw that.
Okay,
I can let someone up. Who else was it, sorry?
Lori?
Wilfred Brockman.
I don't see her request.
Yeah, I think
She's right. I don't know if I can pin it. Lori, can you say your
Lori
name there,
O2?
honey?
Right there.
Yeah, there she is. That's her. There she is. Yeah. Oh.
Hello, everyone.
Hi, Sean. Happy Election Day.
Hi, Sean.
Yay, happy Election Day.
Yes.
Yeah, the Canadian Cobra chickens are flying by. They're doing their security at the moment. I apologize for that. Sorry.
Love it.
Patrols.
I think
They're
earlier,
doing
when I
patrols.
hadn't gone to bed earlier this morning, Colleen, I could hear you had like red squirrels or something in the background.
Oh, they go crazy here. The
Yeah.
quarterback yard in Nova Scotia. I'm telling you, my mallards moved in. They've returned for their summer residency. They were sunbathing earlier in the day on the sanded beach, which is really just grass. But anyway, that's fine. And then it's been squirrely. I can't lie. They've been going crazy all day long. So that's got to tell me something. I'm like, oh, I don't know. What did you get in back there? Can I join you? No.
Beautiful Colleen. Do you know Charlotte back in Nova Scotia? She's on TikTok here. She does a lot of poems that are very witty. She's an older.
Oh, yes.
She's sort of like how to dance.
So just quick, guys, I want to interject. So right now we're sitting at 3-2 Conservatives, and the next polls are closing as we speak.
3-2 for the Liberals, not the Conservatives.
No, it says Conservative on PBC.
No, it's 3 Conservatives, 2 Liberals.
Okay, they just they had it wrong then the first time.
Well, I think a riding probably switched, so that's probably where it is. And
Oh yeah, it was on Newfoundland switched. Wow, and that means that one of their ridings actually flipped. It was that riding that flipped that used to be Liberal.
Don't panic. It's really early yet. Don't panic yet, guys.
It is early, and exactly.
everybody just
Counting
breathe.
hasn't even started, really. It's only been an hour in Newfoundland, and there's still a fair amount of things that need to be done.
when we're watching this, when we're watching live, remember we need to treat it like we're watching a Maple Leafs game.
Exactly.
Oh God, that's really like watching a Calgary Flames game.
Or last night's Oilers game. Salish, now I miss my dogs.
See, like that's what I'm thinking. I was like, oh, we all need a dog at the moment.
Yeah, he's
I got 10 dogs. Anybody want one? I got 10 of
pretty
them.
lovable.
You got 10?
Yes, ma'am. 10 dogs.
What
Big
kind of dogs you got?
I got a Yorkie, a Turkey, 7 Chihuahuas, XL Pit Bull, and a Pit Bull.
An XL pit bull?
Yeah, he's a
Male or female?
He's a male. He's 150 pounds. He's beautiful.
Holy smokes!
This is big babies. I love the big babies.
Huge baby. Yeah.
They are host hippos. That is the host hippo. I don't care what anybody says.
He's a great big huge baby. I love him to death. Yeah.
I know of a pit bull who is a princess, but she doesn't know she's a dog.
Yeah, of
who
course.
lives on a king size bed all day long in air conditioning.
We have 3 res dogs.
Yeah. They don't know. She just don't know.
Yeah. Oh gosh.
Is
Yeah.
everybody hydrated? You got to stay hydrated, people.
Stay hydrated and elevated.
Newfoundland.
Well, this is it.
All together.
I'm working on one of them, Solish. I'm not working on the other at the moment, but I'm just working on one. Getting there.
That gives the best hugs.
And in the big picture, Newfoundland only has 7 seats to offer up.
I was going to say.
I'll panic. I think we have lots of room to, even if they make the big bad blue year, we're going to recoup.
I think he knows it's almost time to go for a WALK.
Yeah. Oh, yes.
Oh, exactly.
I take mine every day around 2, and they know. All of a sudden, they're around me. They're like, hey, it's walk time.
He knows at 5 o'clock I got to go over to the main house to start dinner. So, and he knows that means the WALK is coming.
Mm-hmm. It's amazing. Even with time change, they still know what time it is.
Well, sometimes they do. It takes them a week or so to adjust. Yeah, because they're always early.
I can't even spell
They just
out
think
that.
they think it's second dinner. I don't know. Who knows?
Like, you don't even spell that out. Where he'll be like, I have a gate across right now. And they're
I
crying.
know. I don't care what anybody says. Dogs and cats can spell.
My dog can talk. He has buttons that he presses.
There you go.
My doorbell.
Where did you get that? Where did you get that thing for the dog talking? I need to get one of them. Dog talking.
They're what are they called?
My neighbor has one.
You
for
can
his
order them
neighbor.
online.
But my neighbor had to get rid of his because he was arguing with his dog. She'd go back and push the button. No. He'd be like, no, and she'd just demand it, right?
I had a button that was all done, like all done. And if I was on my phone, my dog learned to press the button, all done, and then look at me guilty, like, get off your flipping phone, lady.
I love it.
I'd love to know what that dog, my Yorkie, thinks, because he is such a handful. Like, you have to play with that 24 hours a day. Like, he's always squeaking all the time in the background. He's got a squeaky toy, right? So I'd love to know what goes through that little pea brain.
We're at
It's jumped to 4 to
5-3
3 now. 4 libs, 3 cons.
We're at 5 liberals.
I see
5
6
now, yeah. Nice.
Finally.
It's 6-3
I'm
on
good.
my screen. 6 for the libs, 3 for the cons.
Okay, I like your screen better, Birdie. We're gonna yours. That's it. 6 is a better number. I like that number.
6-3 now on my screen too. Excellent.
Oh, it's 6-3 now. Yeah, I see it.
Yeah, here I am trying to make a bite to eat, and all of a sudden I hear, hey, the polls are moving. What?
6-3.
Had
Really?
I've never been excited about a federal election because I've never
Oh, look at that. See, I'm outside, so I had to look at the screen. Oh my God, look at that. Yeah.
win. And so it was first time I've ever gotten behind the Liberals. I didn't vote for them, but in my heart, I want them to win over the Conservatives. And so at 61 years old, this will be the first time that I believe that I will enjoy a win at the federal level.
Thank you. Thank you.
You did it for your country,
That's right.
like we all did.
Yeah. And I, as a liberal, a lifelong liberal, I appreciate every one of you.
Yeah.
That normally voted NDP or Green or even Conservative that took the time to educate yourself and actually put country before yourself. Bottom line, because that's what it comes to. And putting your country, our First Nations, women, children, all these things that are, because not one policy I hear from Conservatives is about women's health. I've never heard a premier come out, or a prime minister come out saying, hey, we're going to invest millions of dollars in women's health and research. That screamed volumes. First Nations health, right? Self-determination,
Exactly.
right? Like, these are things that Carney has been speaking about continually all through the election. But when you're talking about women's health, men's health too is important. I'm not disputing that men's health is super important, but all research has been done on men. Women's health is lacking in so much research, even for heart attacks and strokes. And yeah, anyways, I just think that I'm thankful that we have that opportunity to maybe move forward with healthcare for women.
Yeah.
And I really want to see more First Nations people step forward and work within our government. I'd like to see more.
Absolutely.
I'd like to see the next prime minister be a First Nations person.
I'm thinking of starting a party.
Let's do it.
Sorry. Oh, excuse me. Sorry.
And you know what, Pixie? I've been a lifelong liberal too. Since I was a young liberal in the 80s. And you know what,
Ditto.
though, I have to confess, it's generational.
Well,
My
Alberta
grandfather
was
was a liberal.
Were
My
you in
mom.
Alberta? You're in Alberta, no less. Trying to be a liberal in Alberta when you were in the 80s? Oh my God, it was
Yeah.
horrible.
But for me, it's strategic. Like I'm still a member. I went to the convention in 2023, but you get to review policy, right? Like you get to provide some input to things. I even drafted a policy for the Indigenous caucus. So
I was the first delegate from the Crowfoot riding to go to the 2014 auction, to go to a Liberal convention ever in history of Canada. The first delegate from the Crowfoot riding ever to go to a convention, and there's never been another one since. And I'm standing at the convention, and Andrew Leslie and his wife Karen were there. And my friend and I were outside puffing on it, and we were talking about the fact, and she pipes up and she goes, "There's no Liberals in Alberta." And I spin around, and there's Karen Leslie standing behind me, right? Who's Andrew Leslie's wife. So we had a great conversation about PTSD, the military, the fact that her husband was the head of the military, right? And how the Conservatives treated him when he left the military, and all kinds of things that made him come to the Liberal Party to begin with, right? Now, that was an amazing moment for me when you finally find out that there are other Liberals in prominent positions in Alberta.
I had only one of two times I've ever been identified because of my of TikTok. I was at a little workshop on how to make plants in little bulbs, and I got out of the car and someone says, "Are you the missus?" And I'm like, "Oh, great hesitation." I'm like, yeah. I'm the missus here, right? And so when we gathered together, this woman expressed to me that she had grown up in a sea of conservatism and that she is surrounded by it and was just so grateful to find the Beaver Network. And she's been following a lot of the different shows. And it really, like, she had tears in her eyes. Like, this is hard for people, right? It is hard to come to grips with some of the realities, but no place to share, no place to care, and no place to learn the civics piece if you're not in school, right? And it's one thing to read. Like for me, I'm old school. I need to see it. I need to take my notes in order to understand. I have a learning style, and YouTube ain't it, right? Some of these the ways that we're expected to learn it doesn't work for everybody. But this room and the Beaver Network, the way we present the information, people are able, because we're talking about it, because we're having that discussion around it. And it's not just, here's the piece of education, go make it apply. You go take this political piece and make it personal. We bring the examples to the table so people can connect the dots on that stuff.
I learned so much because of the Beaver Network and all the lives. In fact, I met a TikTok friend, Screaming Crow. We met in the physio office, and she actually recognized me. I didn't recognize her, and that was really good. And we've been friends ever since, because we're both Lori's. Her real name is Lori, and it's out there, so I'm not saying anything wrong. She's Indigenous. She was affected by the 60s scoop, so I really feel for her. She's an awesome human being. She worked for CUPE a long time. She's a little afraid to get too involved in TikTok because she's the type of person who, once she jumps in, she's all in. So she's a little bit afraid to do that. She does a lot of volunteer work and knows our MP very well because she lived across the street from him. She also worked for Jean Chrétien. Lucky her, because I would have loved to know him. But unfortunately, I didn't. I met Brian Mulrooney several times, but at the time, I was neither a conservative or a liberal. My mother disliked him intensely because of NAFTA. So my mother's genes kind of trickled down into me because out of 4 girls and 1 boy, I'm definitely the most politically inclined. So it's interesting when you get into it. And of course, I met Christy when she came to Montreal. And we drove from Ottawa to Montreal, and we got together, quite a few of us. So, yeah, it's really nice when you meet TikTok friends. You just feel this intense connection. You're friends with her, Salish, right? You and Chrissy are friends?
Yeah, I go down
Yeah.
and I see Chrissy, Miss Bliss, Haldis, CG. There's a whole group of us that get together on the regular, and it's amazing. Shelby Behave as well.
Shelby.
It's
Yeah.
amazing. We all get together. We have a great time. It started about 3 years ago, and we always get together for my birthday. We always get
fun.
'cause I'm generally off in the winter. I work all summer, and then I'm generally off in the winter, so I go down for the winter and hang out.
Yeah.
Lori, you're in Montreal?
No, I was born in Montreal area, actually South Shore. I'm in Gatineau, Quebec, which is all the big government building, which is where all the big government buildings are. I'm just across the bridge from Ottawa. Takes me 20 minutes to get to the Parliament.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, I'm really close. I'm Ontario, Quebec. I am raised in the French Canadian family. My dad passed away young. But what are you doing, Treaty? Do you need
It's
help?
9-3. 9-3 for the Libs.
Oh, yay.
Or like Pee says, 9.
Oh,
It's 9, you guys.
I just felt talkative there for a change.
Sorry, Lori.
Keep
talking, Lori.
I turned the
I'm
TV
not
off because
usually-
my
I'm
TV.
not usually like that.
That's all right. That's the good part, because when you don't do it, it's really surprising, and we really enjoy it.
Well,
I think
I've
we need
got
to make sure that everybody gets to talk. I don't even care what you talk about. Tell me what your perm looks like. I don't care what color jeans you put on. What color is your underwear today? Did you put on the Sunday underwear because you missed the day and you should have put on
You're
Monday's
so
underwear, but you
funny.
screwed
I
up?
would love to meet you, Colleen. I love
I'm
these
crazy. I
shows.
am absolutely right over my gourd. I will not lie. I have a life experience. I would be the first person to tell you that multiple lives have existed and I have lived before. I will tell you that animals, and I will say, I have a mean streak, 18 footballs wide. Don't ever cross me, because those who have had some serious consequences that have happened to them. Don't ever cross a witch. She will remember you.
I am a witch too.
And those people who just know, if you do know me, you know, you
Yeah.
always stay on the good side. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, because my blessed bee may not necessarily, it would be more like the southern drawl of, well, isn't that lovely? And which, if you know that is not lovely when a southern woman, especially from the South Carolina area, will tell you that's lovely, and don't ever believe her, because she means the polar opposite of that.
Or they
Oh,
say,
no.
bless your
So,
heart.
Bless your heart. Oh, yeah, bless your heart. That is a slap in the face with no contact.
It's like a bless
And
your
you
heart,
feel
baby.
that.
You get
Well-
bless your heart, baby.
10-3.
I have
11. Oh my God, guys, it's 11.
Wow.
It's
It's
11-3.
It's 11 now. 11-3.
Wow.
Okay,
Yeah, right
now is this
there.
again? Okay, we have now got this. We're good. We're going to have a now
11-4.
collective breath. So everybody inhale
Okay, folks. I've got to
and
go.
exhale.
So we got
Ah, fuck you, cunt. There you go. See, there you go.
5:47.
There you go. That's the British way to do it.
Pixie has to go.
All right,
All right, Miss Pixie.
meetings will be shut.
Have a good time at the potty.
Yeah,
We'll be back live in about an hour from the party. But yeah, I definitely got
Okey-doke.
that, guys. Sorry, I'm so sorry.
Yes.
okay, just before she bops us all out of here, we'll be back up in 12 minutes with Jana open Beaver Network show. So go for coffee, go have a pee, and get right back here. Grass and wine, whatever you need. Bring it
And I
to
just
you.
want-
Grab your Depends. We
I
could
just
be a
wanted to
while.
thank everybody for coming in, and I just want to do a quick land acknowledgement because I am hosting from the Okanagan Similkameen Indian Band territory here in the Okanagan. So I'd just like to acknowledge that I am on their unceded land.
And I'm out of here from the Tanaha Nation, which I acknowledge is Akim, Lower Plains, Lower Tobacco Plains, and I acknowledge I love, live, and absolutely love living here. Thank you.
I'm on unceded Algonquin territory in the area I'm in, so I found out recently, and yeah, that's it.
I'm in Nova Scotia, the unceded region of our Mi'kmaq peoples. I have to say, you guys always bring the joy, even on the bad days, and I thank even on the people who tried to light my fuse to watch the boom happen. I appreciate you coming in because you make us stop and think, and you make me remember what my education was for, and I appreciate the fact that I get to educate you and tell you how things are. But I appreciate everyone on this panel who has assisted in my education as well, and I appreciate you from the bottom of my heart. Thank you very much, and I'll see you in about 12 minutes.
All right. So I'm coming from the unceded territory of the Kwet'late people in British Columbia here. And I'm signing off, and we'll be coming back in 12 minutes. And it's never too late for a land acknowledgement. Salish, thank you for this.
In my car with my balloons.
Okay, be safe there, Pixie.
Nice.
Thanks, everybody. We'll see you soon.
See you in a few.